Oh, we're actually streaming and I'm just sitting here reading chats. Oh wait, camera's here today. I move stuff around and then I can't keep track. So let's see if you guys can actually hear me. I can't tell yet because I was apparently looking at chat for way too long. Waiting to make sure that is, and then we will get started. If I talk on the stream, come on.
Oh, we're actually
there we go.
streaming.
Okay, there we go. Sound is good. Let me pop out the chat window. And there we go. Okay. I thought I was so ready for everything tonight. I'm not. And I'm going to keep looking over here because I think that's just where I'm used to the camera being. And different set today. So let's go ahead. I've got that going. Okay, first thing I need to do tonight, my palette. This is actually back from weeks ago when I was doing the octopus or scooter painting. And a lot of this is what's so cool about this painting. Look at how, I don't know if you can see all of these colors, but like a lot of these are still wet, which is kind of crazy for acrylic paint. But I need to clean this up. I thought I'd wait and show you guys during, I mean, I know I've shown you before, but during the live stream because it's so cool. Oh, yes. Am I recording? Thank you, Joseph. There we go. I am now recording. So I'm going to mist this with water. With oils, I don't need to mist it. I just scrape. But with acrylics, if the areas that started to dry, they don't scrape up as well as if you just put a little bit of water. I have to find my scraper. I'm curious to see. I know you have that feeling that you're definitely forgetting something. I haven't figured out what that is yet. I've definitely forgotten something to get started. So what I'm using here, this is this little razor blade scraper thing, little glass scraper, and I'm just going to scrape off the dried paint that I misted with water. It comes off so, this is just the easiest palette. I have the kind of palettes that you peel off. They're kind of a pain because the paint needs to be completely dry before you can actually peel it. Here, it doesn't really matter if it starts to, either way I can clean this off. So yeah, I'm actually don't even need most of these colors tonight, but this has just been the best palette. I don't need orange or red. We'll just scrape all that off. Those are starting to dry anyway. I think I have which one it is. It's the New Wave one. It's probably listed under my supply list. If not, it's probably over on my website under supplies. If you guys are ever unsure of what supplies I'm using, check out, or that I use in general, if you go to my website, lachri.com, there's a menu option where you can actually see the, oh, these are actually really dry. You can see the supplies that I use and recommend. So let's go ahead and pull those off there. Yeah, Joseph Fincham asked if I remembered to remove the lens cap. I did tonight, only because there's no lens cap on this camera. That's apparently a problem with my DSLR. The amount of times I do that is frightening. I'll just start new on all of this because that was really starting to dry. I may as well just start new on everything, actually. Some of it was still wet and I could use, but I don't want to sit here trying to decide what's what. Ooh, let's not wear the paint. Okay. I'm just going to move that off to the side. Oops. And let's clean that up because I've got wet paint all over it now. I'm just going to wipe that blade off so it's not too bad. It actually peels off pretty easily. But yeah, the palettes I've gotten, and I've got a couple of them for peel off paint palettes. They're convenient, I think, for travel. They're a good size if you're going to a class or you're painting outdoors. I do like them for that better than I think I would this. This is actually kind of big and it's heavy because it is glass. So maybe if I were traveling, this would not be my, I don't know why I'm saying maybe. This definitely wouldn't be my first choice for travel. But for painting at home, I really like this one. For travel, I probably would go to the peel off ones are decent. Okay. I'm going to use regularly. We'll set up this palette. Make sure if you ask questions that you highlight that in orange. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to see it. And before I forget, because I'm a jerk about that all the time, I want to thank my moderators tonight. We've got Valerie and Joseph Fincham. Make sure to check out their channels. I have links in the video description. They both have really cool art channels. So, you can go over there, check it out, subscribe, say thank you to them. But you can see how they've been highlighting the Lachri fine art. If it's not highlighted in orange, I'm not going to see your question, more likely than not. So, exactly what Valerie did. Okay, colors I'm going to use. Definitely going to need some white. Some more white. That white's actually still wet, so I'll leave that. I'm using Liquitex Basics as usual. This is actually going to be the underpainting for an oil painting. So the colors I use tonight, it's not that big of a deal that I be exact on anything because all of this can be corrected with oils later. And in general, when I paint, I usually am not terribly worried about colors till my final layers. At the end, if I want to correct stuff, I'm just going to glaze color. So for tonight, we will use these. I haven't actually put that much thought into making sure these are the exact shades I'm going to need for what I'm trying to create. I just need an underpainting. So when I work in oils over acrylic, the main reason that I mix the two is that I'm trying to use the best of both, or taking advantage of the best of both worlds. Acrylic dries fast, so it's great for getting tiny detail, getting things done quickly, but it dries fast, so it's not so great for blending. So I'll get my tiny detail, but then when I glaze with the oils later, certain areas around the dolphin, or especially around the edges, things that I want really smooth and really blended, I will get that with the oils. The other thing that I like so much about doing this is, and it's not that you can't get the same look doing one or the other, it just makes it a little easier because I am using the best of both mediums here. The other thing, that one's starting to get chunky. That does not look so good. It's still usable. I just have to mix a bit more water with it. It's starting to dry out. This color, my raw umber, and I've got another brown. The browns, for some reason, with Liquitex Basics, I'm not sure if that one's showing up on, actually, I guess I can look and find out. The browns tend to come out very kind of clumpy. I don't know why. They dry faster. The paint's fine once you paint with it, thin it out when you're working, or with your medium, your water, whatever. But I don't know what it is about those colors. It's not the first time I've seen that happen. I don't even know how far I'm getting tonight, so I'm probably putting out way more colors than I need. Now this color here, this one is light blue permanent. Honestly, if I just mix some white with the phthalo blue, it's very similar. It just makes it easier because it's already mixed. The phthalo blue, phthalo green, the reason that I'm going with those two is for the areas that I'm going to need to have more of a teal turquoise, bright. It's actually a very bright turquoise on some of this. Those are the colors I'm going to use to mix that. And let's see, I've got my browns. Is this everything I need? I may end up using a brighter blue. Let's go with some cobalt blue too. Normally I would put the blues side by side, but I wasn't planning that out too well. Yeah, that blue's starting to get a bit chunky too. What happens is you get air in these tubes, and the air starts to cause the paint to dry. Certain colors dry faster than others, and I think that's why you have that with the browns, some of the blues, where you'll get that kind of clumpy. But it doesn't mean the paint is bad or that you can't use it. I've never had a problem. In all the years that I've used Liquitex Basics and I've had clumpy paint, especially in the beginning, I wouldn't replace it because I don't have the money to do that. So I would use it anyway. Those paintings are still fine. It never caused a problem. Okay, I'm going to start up here. Now this painting comes from Graphic Stock, which is now, what are they called now? There's a name for that. They changed it. It's, why can't I remember? Storyblocks. Or, yeah, I think it's Storyblocks is the company where this reference photo came from. I completely changed, and doing the color is completely different, but that's where the reference photo is coming from. Okay, now I have to pick paintbrushes. That is definitely something I did a terrible job with because they're all over my studio right now. So let's hope that I've got what I need in this palette. And my brush, I use these holders to hold all my brushes. Actually, these aren't all my brushes. These are some. I have several of these holders. I get these ones from Dick Blick. It's, if you just look up canvas brush holder, if you like these, you'll find them over there. And Dick Blick's the only one, I haven't looked in the last year or so, but for years, these are they're the only ones I have found that have like these rows, rows after rows after row of places to store the brushes. So these are definitely my favorite. And if you do buy these, they have them in two sizes, the small one and the big one. I don't recommend the small one. It's kind of a waste. You'll fill it up way faster than you think you will. Go with the big one, even if you don't have a lot of brushes just yet. Actually, this guy's probably good. Let's start with these two. Oh, I'm going to need to have a blender. Let's see. Decisions. I might want you. I need something to blend. You will work. Okay. So what I'm doing, and I know you guys don't have the reference photo, but and actually you can go to Storyblocks, even if you don't have a membership with them. You can go over there, do a search for Dolphin, and you'll find this photo. It'll have a watermark over it. You won't be able to download it. Be able to see what I'm looking at if that's something that you're interested in. But I've got just tons of tiny detail in the water. Now you can see what I have drawn out here, just with the white. It's drawn out with a white charcoal pencil by Generals. On top of, I painted just a base color, and then the white charcoal pencil I don't have all the details of all the little ripples that I'm going to need. I don't need them to be exact. It's not that big of a concern. I have the main thing sketched out, but the little stuff I'll just freehand in as I paint. Okay, yeah, Katya says she's has these, that brush holder, and loves it. They're so nice. Gail Perkins says flipper. Okay, let's see if I missed any questions. Picks by Lisa, did you choose a new dolphin painting because March is Dolphin Awareness Month? I had no idea, actually. Or is it because the dolphin and it's you? Because it's a dolphin and it's me. I wanted something, I loved my sea otter. It's one of my favorite paintings, and so I wanted, I'm on my ocean kick again. I painted a lot of marine life. That's how I started with when I decided to be a professional artist. That's really all I painted. And then I stopped for years and hardly painted any, and now I'm back into just, that's my favorite thing right now. So let me make sure that this, for some reason, this camera turned off earlier. Okay, good. It's still picking up. So I'll have to check that. Make sure, let me know if any of the cameras stop. I have no idea why my easel camera turned off earlier. Let me see. Okay, so up here, I've just got a mess of details. So let's see what color I want to go with, or something kind of close. Yeah, I just need, there went my mouse. I just need a light blue. So I'll probably just mix these two, actually. And the reason I'm going to mix these two, this light blue is actually pretty opaque, whereas my phthalo blue is more translucent. If I mix the two, I'm getting that medium blue I want, but I'm mixing an opaque color and a translucent color, and it's just going to show up better. And the brush that I'm using, this one is a Simply Simmons No. 6 Filbert. And whenever I give you supplies that I'm using, don't feel like it's the only thing you can use. If you've got some, use whatever you've got. You know, don't ever not paint or draw because you don't have something. Okay. So I just need kind of these little, this isn't really opaque enough. I'm going to add a bunch of white, and then I can glaze blue over it if it's not enough. So see how when I made that first brush stroke, it's not showing up enough against the dark that I have. So I'm just going to add some more white. White being opaque, it's going to lighten the color more than I want, but it will also show up, and that's more important. I can correct the color later. So all these little details, these won't blend that much when I glaze over it, and you could glaze with acrylic or with oil. When you glaze over it, it will kind of pull them together. So while the lines that I make right now are going to be very harsh, when you glaze them, they are going to be tied in together, or like it kind of pulls them together really nicely. So you get a much smoother transition. Colette said, I just got my pastel drawers you suggested for colored pencils. Thank you so much. I love them. Yeah, aren't those wonderful? I love those. I actually, okay, you guys will be happy about this if you probably saw it on Instagram if you follow me over there. But I just ordered, they're supposed to be here tomorrow, although it's Amazon, and Amazon has not had a good track record with actually delivering my stuff. They like to say things were delivered and I was home and they never arrived, and then like, oh, it must have been stolen. It wasn't stolen. I was home all day. They never came. It's an ongoing problem with them here. But anyway, so they should be here tomorrow. But the Caran d'Ache watercolor pencils, I ordered those. So we will be doing many, many more videos with that. And I was going somewhere with this story. I don't even remember now. I got off on an Amazon tangent. Can you tell I'm frustrated? I ordered some camera stuff that I needed, and it was supposed to be here yesterday, and it wasn't, and it's been, you know, you have to call and fight with them and waste your time doing that because, yeah, fun stuff. Let's scroll down. There we go. So what I'm doing, I don't need these to be perfect. I just need to kind of little lines. Just overlapping them is important too. Like I wouldn't want to just do line, 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 line. That's not going to look very realistic. What I want to do is just kind of connect, overlap, just watching approximately what it looks like. And this color is not even close to what I'm going to want the end to be. But like I said, I can glaze over them so it doesn't really matter. And it will all come together nicely in the end. Yeah, we'll have very soon some more watercolor. I want to do a comparison and I cannot wait to do a video for you. Well, I'll do a separate video just reviewing the Caran d'Ache watercolor pencils, and then I'm going to do a comparison between those and the Derwent, which I'm really excited about because I think that there are things, even though I haven't tried the watercolors from Caran d'Ache yet, price alone and just some other information I looked at for you guys, I can't wait to share. So in the comparison of the two, I think that for different things, I like both pencils. I'm going to loosely do this. I'm going to come back through because I'm going to block in the Dolphin. What I finish with tonight, honestly, is going to be terrible looking. It'll be a good lesson for you guys when you get frustrated that things don't look good in your first layers. You'll see, this is normal. This will end up being very, very realistic in the end, but not tonight. You have to go through these really ugly stages to build up to the more realistic ones. If you really look at your reference photo when you're trying to create something that does look realistic, when you look at that reference photo and just follow along with that, just trust the photo. Like, okay, I don't understand why the water looks like this. Sometimes when you back up, all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's what that was. That actually happened in my lionfish last week. I'm still amazed by that one. Gail said she loves the band on my right wrist. Is that that tapestry? This is what I bought. There was a person who sold them. I don't know what it is. It's someone I bought from Etsy years ago. She used to make those, and that was like one of my fun things I liked to collect. I have like 3 or 4, 5. I don't know. Like once a month I wanted to get a new one, but she doesn't make them anymore. It makes me really sad, but I love them. I've got a few different ones. They're really worn. This one's not as worn, but most of them are really worn because I wore them so much. Hi, Suburbia from... Did I say that right? From Argentina. Valerie said, am I getting a free month of Prime every time I cancel and clean? Oh, yes, I am. I am good. I've researched that. Amazon does it so often. Sometimes they give me the free month, and sometimes I've already gotten the free month that month, and so they give me free, like, credits and bonuses. So, I mean, they do good usually in trying to make you happy, but you have to know to ask for it, or they don't offer it at all. I make sure they do. Like, yesterday, the girl I spoke to... Oh, black. I haven't put that out. The girl I spoke to on the phone about the order that wasn't here told me, well, we give our drivers a 2-day grace period to get their deliveries out. Like, that is not acceptable on an item that was next day. I'm not paying for Prime that, in this case, put extra items in my cart that I didn't need just yet. I mean, there's stuff I'll end up using, but I didn't need them just yet, just to hit that one day for you then to say, oh, well, our drivers have a 2-day grace period. Oh, no, if you're going to start that, I'll order from somewhere else. Actually, I already, like, if it's something super expensive, like the, anything electronic, camera equipment, all of that, I buy from B&H Photo. I trust them more. They've always done a really, really good job of getting to me what I've ordered. But, yeah, she tried telling me, no, we give them a 2-day grace period depending on how many orders. And it's like, no, you cannot guarantee me or do the whole, it's going to be 1 day, and then tell me, oh, but our drivers, yeah, it's frustrating. Don't mark that you delivered something you didn't deliver. That's a great start, I think. Oh, that is way too dark. Okay, so here, see how I went way too dark on that? I'm not going to freak out. It doesn't matter. It's too dark. I'm going to mix more color. That's how I'm going to find out. It doesn't hurt anything just to layer more color over it. Everyone tends to get, I shouldn't say everyone, when we're starting out, we all tend to get we're so worried about color that we are almost like paralyzed. We can't move forward because, oh my gosh, the color. It's all about the color. I need the color right. No, stop with the color. Color's not that big of a deal. What you want to worry about are your values. Are your darks dark enough? Your lights light enough? So in this case, my color was pretty close. I mean, it's the same colors. I mixed. It was just too dark. It was my values that were off. Let's see. Whoops, scrolled too far. The Suburbia asked, do you recommend doing portraits with Polychromos, layering light flash at the beginning, or first going over with my darker ones first? Usually with colored pencils, I recommend start with your lights and build to your darks. There are occasions, I mean, for any time when you get into like the way that I'll art rolls or the way that I'll do something like certain ways, there are always going to be exceptions. There will always be times that I don't follow my own little guidelines. But usually you're going to be safer, start with your lights and build to your darks. Because if you start with your darks and then realize you can't go to your lights easily, it won't show up well, that's a lot harder to correct. If you go too light, it's really easy to continue building to dark as long as you're using a light hand as you work. But if you do it the other way around, you can run into some problems. So I would recommend start with your lightest colors and then build to dark. Let's see. Have I ever tried Reeves acrylic paints? If yes, are they good? I have, only because I've had students bring them in before, so we gave them a try. No, they are not good. I do not recommend at all. That was one we'd had a problem, and I don't know if they've changed anything, but the way that I glaze and layer, we've had problems with the first layers with Reeves lifting off completely. It's completely dry. Those first layers will lift off the canvas. So you know how you'll have people complain or say, oh, if you paint will flake off the canvas or lift off the canvas if you use water to blend. Not if you're using good acrylics with good pigment, good binders, good everything, which Liquitex Basics I feel are. They work really well for my techniques. Reeves did not at all. They just kept lifting, or they were too easy to rub off the canvas. You put the first layer, glaze the next layer, and if you like brush much over the previous layer, it would pull off even though it was totally dry. So no, I don't recommend Reeves. I mean, if that's what you have and that's all you have, great, use it. If you have not purchased yet and you're just looking into what to buy, I would go with, like Liquitex Basics are not expensive. I would, if all you, like let's say just price wise is your problem, I would worry or recommend get fewer colors of a better brand. So like in my case for how I paint, I would say get white and black, titanium white and Mars black with Liquitex Basics. Just start there if you're trying to save money. I find that to be a much, much better way to go, and I've been very, very happy with Liquitex. I know you will read reviews where people hate them for various reasons. They just work for my techniques. I'm a huge fan of them. Now this canvas, this one is a Frederick's Belgian linen, their Pro Series Belgian linen. It is primed, an acrylic primed canvas. It's a box canvas, and by the way, yes, I'm sponsored. This is not a paid video or sponsored video, but I am sponsored by Frederick's. They provided me with my canvases. The canvas, I'm not sure if I can really show you easily, moving this too much, but the canvas itself, it's a box canvas. It's very thick. When the video is over, I'm gonna go through and paint my edges. I'm gonna continue my design all the way around the edges. Sometimes on a box canvas, I will just paint them so that they're black or, one solid color, whatever the background is. But here, no, that's fine. Here, I'm going to go ahead and paint my design all the way around. I think it'll look best in this case. And then this canvas won't need to be framed. Gail says B&H are great. I love B&H photo. Like I've had problems. There was a mic that I had problems with. Their return policy, everything. They're just good. They're slower, but they're very, very good. And I definitely trust them more than like third-party sellers on Amazon. I try to avoid whenever possible. The watercolor pencils I bought, unfortunately, are from a third-party seller, but they had great feedback or reviews. So I don't know if you guys know this, but with Amazon, you often think that you're just buying from Amazon, and it ends up being a third-party seller, and they're not always super trustworthy and have weird return policies and such. Make sure you check the reviews of the sellers if you go through a third-party seller. I'm not saying don't buy from them. I'm just saying check. And there are a lot of items that are on Amazon that are counterfeit, or they'll sell them as like Wacom. It's an ongoing problem. They'll sell them as new when they're actually refurbished, but you're paying for a new item. You're not even getting a discount. You're paying full price. Oh, Itchy Nose has started. Okay. Aloria said, I just recorded my first video and now you're making me feel like upping my appendage style game, referring to the wristband nails. When I first started painting, because I did not paint my nails at all, because the nail polish would always stick. Well, I had a friend, so all my early videos, my nails were never painted. It just would drive me crazy. I hate chipped nail polish. I had a friend who told me how using acetone would, to dry out the nail bed, how it'll make them last longer. And she was so right. And I started painting them there. But my early videos, they were never painted. It always looks weird to me to go back and see those. I'm like, those aren't my hands. I'm so used to seeing painted nails all the time now. The Polo Guy asked, if you are feeling strong emotions when working on an illustration for a client, how do you maintain focused and or be professional? Well, I don't, when you say strong emotions, do you mean because of the client, they're being frustrating? I mean, this can mean a few different things. Let's say your emotions are because the client is driving you insane. And I think, I've only really had that happen once with a person who I told, don't contact me again. It was a real problem. With her, luckily, I had already had everything finished before she got to be too much of a problem, but she she would constantly want things changed, and it was frustrating, and then I got to where I didn't want to paint at all, and so I had that, but the real problems luckily didn't start till after, where I had actual strong emotions about her. But besides that, in those cases, let's say the strong emotions are again from a client who is being too much of a problem. If they're too much of a problem, I would recommend go ahead and just eat the cost, give them back their deposit, give them back whatever. If they're too big of a problem, sometimes dealing with the stress of that, you just know you're not going to be able to create good work because they are causing so much of a headache. It may be better just refund them and not deal with it. That isn't something that's super common. But if it's strong emotions, let's say it's something else, your job, your family, something else is causing those emotions, I think you need to get to where you can learn to control them. I mean, with any job you have, when I worked at the animal hospital, there were days I was extremely stressed, had a bad mood, or was in a bad mood, whether it was because I was having problems with family, having problems with financial difficulties, having problems with whatever, and you don't want to go to work. I didn't want to go work at the animal hospital that day. The thing is, they weren't paying me for my personal problems. They were paying me to do a job, and they expected you to do that job. And I see this too often with artists where they think, well, I'm an artist, I'm not in the mood, I shouldn't have to paint. I just think that's unprofessional all around. But I think it also depends on how strong are those emotions. I mean, let's say you lost a family member. That may be too strong for you to be able to paint for a week or so. But you do have to go back to work. You can only take so much time off if this is your job. If you're taking money, I'm assuming you are, being that they're clients, you have to treat it like a job. And even when we don't want to paint, we still have to paint. I mean, yes, it's okay to take time off when needed, but you have to be very, very careful with when have you crossed that line or gone too far with that? I've just seen so many unprofessional artists where they're like, well, I'm having a bad day, I'm in a bad mood, this is going wrong, and I think that the client should just understand me, and they'll do these rants. I've seen a lot of rants on Facebook where people are upset because their clients were like, okay, I paid for this item, like I get that you're having a bad time for whatever reason, but I also gave you my money, let's get to it. You can only use that for so long, and so many artists take it too far, and I think you have to learn to work through that. Just like when I worked at the animal hospital, I hated that. God, I hated that job. I hate not the animals, the people. My job was essentially arguing with people and trying to convince them to pay their bills. So not fun. And then being accused, if you were trying to charge or collect money, you were getting accused of, well, you don't even care about animals. If you did, you wouldn't charge for this. And it's like, I'm not the vet, first of all. I don't set the fee. There's so many problems with that. But anyway, the point is, even when you're in a bad mood with any other job and you're stressed and you're angry and you have strong emotions, you still have to go to work. If you don't go to work, you get fired. And it's going to be the same thing with your art. You stop going to work because you're having problems emotionally and out with other areas of your life, you will get fired. People will stop hiring you to do things for them. So, just be careful of that. Be aware that you can only do that so much before it turns into a problem. I have to move my drawing over a little bit. Okay, actually, this corner was water. That was not fin. Whoops. Well, I can actually fix that. Here's how you fix a mistake when it's not dry. I'm going to take a clean brush, has a little bit of water on it. I'm just going to wipe that off because that paint isn't dry. Take my paper towel. I'm going to dab that. Like nothing, I can't hurt anything here. This is one of the things you want to keep in mind, especially with acrylics. There's nothing you can do that you can't fix. So don't be afraid. Like in this case, I was being messy. I'm sitting here chatting, not paying attention. That should be water. Fix it. Take it off. And I've got to paint other water over it anyway, so it doesn't even... Actually, I was going to have to blend some gray into it. It's already done. That actually... I can tell you how many times I've made mistakes, wiped things off, blended it, or just tried to remove it, and it ended up blending, so it saved me time because it looked how I was going to want it in the end. It's weird how often that happens. But yeah, as far as, when you're having trouble outside of work, just remember, if you're trying to make a job with this, it is a job, and just like any other job, you still have to show up for work, even on really, really bad days. And that may sound cold, but if you're running a business, your customers are only going to understand for so long before they're like, okay, I'm paying for something and I'm not getting it. I mean, even me with the health stuff I had last week for Patreon, people are actually giving me money. And everyone was super understanding, but you can only take advantage of that so long. It gets to a point where people are like, okay, yeah, but you said I'd have a new video. I could only miss a couple of them before people are going to be like, Why am I paying for this? I'm not getting anything for it. So as nice as people are and as understanding as your clients may be, you still have to understand if they're paying you for something, you've got to be providing what they're paying you for. But that's a great question. I love that question because it's something that I think a lot of us struggle with. I mean, as we think we're artists, we need to be in the mood. No, you have a job. You need to learn, if you're going to make a business out of it, you need to learn to do your job even when you're not in the mood. I just scrolled too far. Oh, that scrolled way too far. Okay, here we go. Vladimir wants a solution for my previous question. I don't know what your previous question was. So I'm going to go with probably, but I can't tell you what it was because I didn't see it. You'll have to ask again. Sorry. Let's see. David said, do you recommend to paint first with pencil colors to get used to painting with them? Huh? Recommend to paint first with pencil. I think I'm not reading that right. Can you reword that question? A little bit more information. Sorry. Nick said, I've never really painted anything before, excluding a water brush with Inktense. When learning acrylic or oils, is there much of a learning curve in actually using a brush? To an extent, because the paint's very different. When you work with Inktense, it's watery, it's thin, it's very much like watercolor. When you work with acrylics or oils, it's thicker, and so you've got to find the balance of, okay, I'm not just mixing with water, I'm actually, mixing medium, whether it be water or a mixing medium. How much of that versus how much paint? And that takes a little getting used to. So if you start and you're like, oh, I'm just bad at this isn't for me, don't give up. And that's unfortunately something that happens too often. Don't give up. It's going to feel extremely awkward at first, but the more you paint, the more it'll feel like the brush and the paint. It's just an extension of your hand. But it does take practice. So don't give up. Don't get frustrated. You will get it the more you practice. But yeah, there is a bit of definitely a learning curve. I mean, certain things are similar. The things where you've learned to hold the brush, how to get thin lines, thick lines, that's going to be very similar. But other than that, the way the paint glides across, it may take you a couple weeks before, painting every day before you feel real competent with working with acrylics or oils. Judy said, what is your opinion on golden liquid acrylics? I'm thinking of trying them. The only reason that I don't use them is that they're too, the texture's fine, everything's fine. They're high gloss, and so I can't put the charcoal pencil like I do here, won't stick on top. And for my methods and the way I paint, I need that. I want that. So, but I did, last year I talked to someone over at Golden, and they were really, really helpful, really knowledgeable. And they were telling me just use matte medium. If you mix it in with the paint, that will make it matte. And so I haven't tried it yet. I want to, because that would allow me, more colors, more paint. That would be a really good thing. So I need to do that, and I'll let you guys know when I eventually do how that works out. But I thought that was interesting. I'm like, I didn't know that. I love when I find out new stuff that I didn't know. One of my big things with the Liquitex Basics is that they dry very flat, so they photograph well for one thing. But they're easier to photograph than like an oil painting. Like that octopus painting with Sir Scooter, if I tried to photograph that with oil paint, where it would be super glossy, and combine that with how dark that is and how big it is, oh, that would have been such a pain to try to get a good photo of. So that's one thing I love with acrylics. Or with the basics, having something that's very flat. My chair is squeaky. Or, I don't know what you call that sound. Let's see. Alexandra said, I'm painting with you. Painting roses with horses and butterflies. That's awesome. Robin said, I stopped wearing rings about 15 years ago when I started painting because my hands were always in water washing up. I never take mine off. They go in water too. It doesn't matter to me. There we go. Aloria said, what have been the most helpful routines for you in being efficient and consistent in maintaining a YouTube channel? Getting a schedule. That was a big, and my schedule is all screwed up right now. It's funny. I got to hang out with the people, Reed and Brenda, that run Smart Art Box. I got to hang out with them twice this week because they were over here for an art convention. Did I just say fur? I always say for an art convention. Let's pronounce that right. they're so fun to hang out with, and I feel bad because I'm like, I'm so behind on your videos. They laugh. They're really, really nice people. I love them. But yeah, I feel like crap because I'm like, you guys send these to me to make videos, and I love them. I love the Smart Art Box, and I'm just not getting to it. I've been really bad with not being on a schedule. But you want the thing for being consistent and maintaining that channel is to be on a schedule. Get that schedule started. Pick days that you're going to have videos uploaded. So like with me, the fact that I said, okay, every Wednesday, now that I'm getting, well, back to work, sort of, I'm going to have the live stream. Whether I'm in the mood or not, whether I'm busy or not, I'm going to make that happen. And so I think start one video at a time once a week and stay consistent with that. That's how I started. And then I added to that eventually. And then I added a bit more to that. And just kind of keep adding more and more days until you hit the point as many as you want. I wouldn't start with, okay, my goal is to make 3 videos a week, so I'm going to start with 3 videos right now. If you're just starting, I would say make 1 video a week, at least for a month or so. Get comfortable with that, have that as a regular part of your schedule, and then add 1 more day. But stick to it, you know, kind of commit to that yourself, that you're going to have those videos up that day. That really helps. Now, see the way that I'm being real rough with these is they're not really smooth lines. It's almost like a paint by number look. Some of this is blended, but a lot of this I'm not even worrying about. This will all get blended and smoothed out when I start in with oils. So I get to be kind of rough, just blocking in colors. And this part is underwater anyway, so it's kind of sketchy. So that just works towards my end goal anyway. Jesse Ramirez says, have I shipped the lionfish watercolor painting to the people you said you were going to ship it to? Are you planning on doing another watercolor painting soon? I have not shipped it. Where is it? Oh, it's up there. I think I lost it. I lose my artwork all the time. No, I have not shipped it yet because I need to make the intro video for it, which I'll be recording probably Friday and hopefully get that video up on Wednesday for you guys, or Sunday, hopefully. No guarantees because I'm a flake apparently lately. But that's my goal. I'm going to send it to her after that. I need to make sure, and I need to take another photo because the day that I took the photo, it was really overcast, and I ended up with this deep blue tint to it. So those of you who are on Patreon, you saw the photo that I posted with it. It's almost too, because that video is up over there. I don't have enough of the warm peach colors aren't really showing through on that photo. It looked good on my one computer. It doesn't look good when I looked at it on my phone. So I need to mess around with that and get a better photo of it because I want to get the most accurate photo I can before I ship it and can't get photos anymore. Although she's actually better at photography, way better than I am. So maybe I should just send it to her and tell her to take a good photo and send it to me. That may be the better way to go. But yeah, I have that one, and then I'll be doing the watercolor paintings with the Caran d'Ache soon. I'll end up getting the Faber-Castell. I want to do some comparison videos with all of those coming up. I loved the Derwent one so much. I'm definitely going to be doing that. You're going to see a lot more watercolor pencil from me. Hold on, text message from my husband. Let me make sure it's nothing too important. No. Nope, he's sending me photos of comics he's buying or needs to buy or something. I don't know, something to do with comics. We can wait to look at that later. So this guy has a lot of this warm brown color on portions. That's what I'm working on now. As I move in, it's going to switch over to the cooler grays and blues. So we'll just block these in. Colette wants to know if I use any golden acrylics. Not now. I don't know if I probably have some somewhere, but I don't right now just because, like I said, they're too glossy for the way that I like to work. The paints are beautiful. The end result you get is beautiful, but just that gloss. So I've got to experiment, and I'll have to get some. Let's see. Have I tried it? Wow, I'm just going to make up words now. Have I tried painting with other artists, like in a group? I'm thinking of starting one with my coworkers, but wondered if it will be productive. Yes, do it. Years ago, back when I was in California, and it was my first apartment, so it was a long time ago, I had people, I'd have a group of friends. There were some guys and girls. Mostly it was the girls that wanted to paint, and the guys would go like watch whatever. I think it was during football season, so it's probably football. We just have a bunch of us hang out. I don't even know how we fit that many of us in that apartment because it was super tiny. But we would hang out and paint and draw, and they would just bring their projects, and I'd help them if they wanted. But for the most part, we were just all working on our own thing, having, I think we drank soda a lot, but you could do wine, you can do whatever. And just having fun and chatting while painting. I mean, friends that, and most of them don't even paint now, but it was so much fun. Like, all of us had fun. Now, yeah, I'm going to be more productive. I'm going to get more done if I'm by myself. And even now, my friend Jessica comes over sometimes, and we have worked before. Like, when she's here, I'm just bad. I don't get nearly as much work done when she's here because I sit and chat the whole time. But if you're both working, it makes it way easier. You're way more likely, I think, to get things done. But it is a lot of fun to get a group of people together to paint and draw. Let's see, do I ever find myself placing way too many things on my wish list or cart in Amazon? It's become my sad place when I have no money. Well, that's what I do when I have no money. I put it in my wish list and just leave it there until I do. And the other thing I like about putting my stuff in my wish list on Amazon is that when I do, or you can watch and see if price drops. Keep an eye on that. Another thing, if you don't already use it, there's a website called Camel. If you put in the URL of the item you're searching, see how that price is adjusted, because sometimes you'll get things in the item. Like, the reason that I got the Caran d'Ache pencils right now, they have gone as low as like $267 for the set with the wood box, but they've also been as high as like $600. And I can see that trend on Camel. And so I'm like, okay, 310 is kind of a good price. You know, that's a happy medium. I don't want that to go. We'll go with that. So that's why I went ahead and bought them, because I didn't want to chance those going up, being that they typically are so much more expensive. But if you check that website, I like to do that. And then if you have them in your wish list, you can see when the price does drop. I put everything in my wish list. My husband was cracking up the other day looking at it. He's like, you need to clean this out. Like, there are things in here you have no interest in anymore. Like, why are they in here? Because he needed something else to make the 1 day or 2 day, or I don't know what he was trying to do. So he needed other items. I'm like, oh, look at my wish list. There's probably something we need, like makeup sponges. Like, I put everything in my wish list. But it's nice because I watch to see when those prices drop, and then I'll order there. So you can end up saving some money too. I like saving money. So you can see, no, I'm not even worrying about blending. Blending will come later. I'm just going to block in my general lights and darks. I'm trying to sit with my legs crossed on this chair. It's not working. Vladimir said, my previous question was, how would you solve people like me who overanalyze paintings or pictures for reference, but our end result looks like basic shapes from our reference? Spend more time, probably. Spend more time painting and drawing. That's what it sounds like to me. If you spend, I mean, you want to analyze, you want to look at it, you want to look at those details, but you can also, spend time backing up and squinting, although that's probably where you're getting a lot of those basic shapes. I would guess, now I've not seen it, so I can't say for sure, or seen your work, but it sounds to me like you're not spending enough time on that project. Like, you're drawing it out and going, okay, good enough, or this is as good as it's going to get. Whereas, like, maybe you're spending 45 minutes and 8 hours would make a difference. So that would be my thing, spend more time. But again, without seeing it, I can't say for sure if that's what the problem is. What I'm picturing in my head might not be what you're dealing with. So I apologize if not. Phyllis said, my first time painting at the same time. Oh, cool. Experimenting with using watercolor and Inktense together. Oh, let me know how that goes. Kanya says there's a big sale on Liquitex Basics, even the bigger sizes at Jerry's Artorama online. I need to order watercolor paper anyway. I need to stop spending money. I just spent way too much on those pencils. But I may have to go check that out myself. Fiddle Joel said, how do you decide what your next subject will be? How do you choose? I struggle to get inspired. So that was kind of a thing for me on this. I didn't even know what medium I wanted to work on next. I try not to do the same medium 2 weeks in a row, so, you guys don't get bored, or if I have, like, somebody who only wants to see acrylics, I don't want to keep doing colored pencil day after day or week after week. So I do try to mix that up, but, like, this time I actually wanted to do more watercolor pencils because I had so much fun, being that was my first time with those. I decided to wait till next week. But anyway, it just depends. In this case, I was having a hard time. I thought I wanted to do something with marine life, wasn't sure. I spent some time at wildlifereferencephotos.com looking through their galleries of different animals. I found a few that I kind of liked, but none, I don't know. It was just, there's plenty of beautiful photos, by the way. I don't mean it wasn't that they weren't good photos. It just nothing, I wasn't feeling it with any of those. And so I looked over at graphic stock, or I keep saying graphic stock because they changed the story blocks. I don't even know what I drew here, what I was thinking. I don't even know what this mess is. I'm just going to end up paint. Oh, I see what it is. Okay. I'm looking at the wrong thing. So this would go down here, I think. I don't know if it's wrong. Just paint over it. Doesn't matter. But But I spent time looking at reference photos until I found one that I liked. So then I found this photo and I took it over into Lightroom and I messed with the colors, like really messed with the colors. Because one of the things that I find, I don't like I mean, I do it sometimes, but I try to avoid painting things exactly as they are in the reference photo if it's something that other artists are going to use. I want to make mine different so that, you know, they don't all look exactly the same. So I messed with it in Photoshop or Lightroom, and once I got it in Lightroom, some more interesting colors, more saturation, all that stuff, then I was excited. So I just kind of look through stuff until I get excited about it. And that was what I did on this one, because I was in the exact place you are right now last week on, what day was that? Friday, or I think it was Friday, where I was just like, I know I need to start something new and if I want to get this out in time, but I had no idea, like not even what medium, no clue. Like I just wasn't super excited about any idea other than watercolor pencils again. Yeah, I'm hooked. But oh, I can't see my thing. Hold on one second. Move my reference photo a bit. So yeah, I just look at, if I like, there are times where I'm like, okay, I want to paint an octopus and I have in my head, this is what I want to paint. But in this case, I had no idea. And I just looked through photos until I saw something where I got kind of, you get that feeling of being a little bit excited, like, ooh, I want to go paint that now. So I just looked through photos until then. And you can look at Pixabay, you can look at, in this case, Storyblocks, you can look at wildlife reference photos. Jason Morgan has his website where he sells, I think he still sells reference photos. Besides that, you have the ones like those of you who are on Patreon, you have the reference photos for me each month. A lot of artists are offering reference photos like that. So just look around at some of those until you find something that interests you. The other thing that you can do, and I don't usually do this when I can't think of something I'm interested in, because I don't know, it just never works out for me. I do a better job when I'm really not motivated in just looking at other photos other people have taken, or some of my old reference or my own photos. That'll work too. But you can set up, like, go make your own still life setting and do that. That never works for me when I'm not in the, like, when I can't feel motivated about stuff. That usually isn't my first go-to thing. I like to do still life photos, and then later on I'll be motivated by some of those. So that's a little different for me. It's going to vary from person to person. But yeah, looking at royalty-free reference photos in different places, that's really what will get me motivated to get to work. But pick something and don't spend too long. I think that's a big thing. Don't spend too much time fussing over trying to find the actual, like the most perfect, most motivating painting or drawing or reference photo in the world to work from, because what happens is you won't get stuff done. I remember this with my classes. My classes were 2 hours, and some students would come in and spend the whole 2 hours trying to choose a project. Don't do that. You're wasting class time. I mean, I get paid either way, so I guess it doesn't really matter to me in that case, other than you're not getting what you paid for. You're not, get to work. Pick something and do it. And while you're working on it, you may get ideas for your next best, greatest. What you do now does not have to be the best thing you ever did. And I have this problems. I cannot talk tonight. I'm so tired today. But you don't need to think that if I finish something I'm really proud of, so like the sea otter, I was super proud of him, so excited. You want your next one to top that. Try not to do that too much, because I find that when I get in that mindset, I don't get work done because I'm so worried about I need something that's just as good, just as motivating. Pick something, paint it, and then while you're painting the one thing that just to get something done, then keep thinking about, okay, what do I want my next thing to do that might motivate me more? But don't sit there and not get any work done because you're trying to think of the perfect idea, the perfect design, the perfect whatever. Just pick something. It can be an apple out of your refrigerator. Pick something and paint or draw it. Don't sit around waiting for that best motivational thing ever. It will come, and it will come faster while you're working on something else. That thing will give you ideas for I go through the what ifs. Well, what if let's say I'm painting an apple. What if I painted this apple and there was a butterfly on it? What if I painted this apple and there was an octopus with his legs wrapped around it? I mean, the what ifs will lead you to better ideas later on. But if you're not getting anything done, you're just sitting around trying to find or think of the perfect thing, you don't get those what if moments that can lead you to the best idea, the greatest things later. Let's see. I'm trying to scroll this super slow because I tend to go too fast. And there it went. Way too fast. So I apologize if I skip any. Oh, wow. I skipped a bunch. hold on one, sorry about this. I hate when this, there we go. Oh, good question. Viridian said, when I draw, I brace my hand against the paper. So you're doing like this, where your hand is touching. When I paint, I can't touch the canvas and I have no brush control and my lines are wobbly. Do you have any advice? Yes, practice, more practice. If you notice, my hand is usually back here on the brush. The only time you're going to see me up closer, sometimes when I have, where are my liner brushes? Oh, I'd use it as an example if I could find one. Let's pretend this is a liner. Actually, no, let's actually use a liner. There it is. When I'm using these guys where I'm trying to get fine detail, then I do tend to rest my hand against it. So if you're working in acrylic, you can rest your hand, if your hands are clean, rest them against your canvas. But what you want to get in the habit of doing when you're painting, especially like right now, my lines are supposed to be wobbly. I'm not trying to get super crisp. And even when I do want, I mean, I do have enough control to make them crisp. That comes with time and with practice, but get used to holding the brush back here. Now, that said, there are times where you do want it up close. So like here with the canvas, I just make sure, or with acrylics, I just make sure what is under my hand is dry. But try to break that habit as soon as you can. The more you paint, the easier that's going to be. It may not look great at first. That's a part of the process. Don't beat yourself up about it if it's not exactly what you wanted. But you want to get used to holding your hand. You'll have more control when your hand is back here in time. It won't feel like that when you're starting. So if you're like, what is she talking about? I have less control. You'll have more control if you get used to it this way. When working with oils, you can get what's called a mall stick. And I think I'm saying that right. Mine's on the floor. I hardly ever use it, but it's a stick that has a little poofy thing on the top. You can rest it against dry portions of the canvas. I don't. I rest mine against part of my easel. I don't like it to touch the paint at all, because usually if I need one, it's because the paint underneath is wet. But you can basically rest it, and then you can rest your hand on that in order to get it. So see how my brush, I don't think you can, maybe you can see, my brush is up against the canvas here. My hand is resting on this. This would be the stick. You could use the wooden dowel, a big thick wooden dowel, the end of a broom handle. I mean, you can use anything, but it's resting here instead of on the canvas or on the wet paint. So if this was an oil painting, I can use that to steady my hand where needed. So those are really handy. And you can get those, I think Amazon probably has them too, but I think I got mine from Jerry's or Dick Blick. I almost never use it. I got it because I thought I would, and then I realized I'm just used to not. But that would be my suggestion, is to get something like that. When will I start the Mermaid? I need to get good reference photos. I haven't found I just haven't seen anything that really motivated, that made me think, oh, that would make for a good mermaid, or that's what I want to do. Someday. Just, I don't know when. Green Bagel says, are you one of those people who only uses the basic colors, or a person who says, I want all the colors, hinting at the light blue? Originally, I only used the most basic colors when I first started painting, because that's just all I could afford. I needed to spend as little as possible, and I would get like the darker blues and darker greens, and then I could mix my light blue. Now, if it's a color like the light blue, I know I use that color a lot. It's easier just to go ahead and buy it. But I started by mixing, and I think that probably helped me in learning to mix more accurately than if I just bought all of the colors firsthand, or first time through. I'm going to switch to a little bit of a cooler gray for some of this. I've got a little bit of water in here, not too much. Let's see. Morticia said, in the 90s, I painted a lot of watercolor and once a week in a group. Great way to interact and learn. Exactly. You can learn from each other, and it's so fun. Painting with other people really is a lot of fun. My friend Jessica wants to come over and play with watercolor pencils now. Well, not this minute. Well, she probably would want this minute, but I'm live streaming. But yeah, she wants to do that. I need to message her to try to set that up for next week. Kayla says, what tips do you have for beginner paintings? Or beginner painters? I want to learn, but I'm not sure where to start. This isn't spam. I just keep writing the wrong thing. I know what you mean. Sometimes I cannot get those highlights to work. I'm impressed with those of you who do. But let's see. Where to start? Just pick up some paint. It can be easier to start with as few colors as possible. So black and white is actually a good place to start. Do something that way. Just pick something though. Pick something and plan on it being ugly. And that seems like terrible advice when you want to create something that's not ugly. But when you start out and you're like looking at it going, I expect this to be amazing, you're not going to have the freedom to experiment the way you need to in order to learn to be able to do things eventually that are amazing. I think people that put too much pressure on themselves when they're first starting with a medium are usually more often than not either not going to stick with it or not going to improve as fast as they otherwise would. So my biggest tip would be just pick it up, get started, and plan to make something ugly. And have fun creating something ugly. Be proud of that, because that's one step closer to your end goal of making something that's not ugly. Just get started. Don't wait because you're trying to think of the perfect project, you need to watch more videos. No, you need to get started. Videos help. Obviously, I make them. I know that they help you guys. I don't want you not to watch them, but a lot of people will get in this, well, I'll just watch more videos. I don't really understand everything yet. I need to watch more videos first. Actually, good example. So those watercolor pencils, Derwent sent those to me sometime last year. I mean, it may have been a year ago. They sent them to me, a really long time ago. And I never got around to using them because for some reason in my head, I'm thinking, I need to practice with them first. I need I bought a bunch of sketchbooks. I thought I was going to paint in those and never did. I did like 2 things, but I'm like, I'm going to practice. I'm going to get good at them and then I'll make a video so I don't embarrass myself. And then I realized I'm never going to get anywhere. Just make something. If it comes out terrible, it comes out terrible. I'm going to make a video, commit to making that video. Even if it's terrible, I'll tell you why it was terrible. I don't care. But, I wasn't going to do it until I wasn't going to learn until I actually did it. Sitting around waiting to magically absorb the skill to use them because I own them and I'll wait until I know how to use them. That sounds silly, but people do it I do it all the time. It doesn't work. Just get started. Make a mess. That's how you're going to learn, and don't be afraid of making that mess. If you go in with the intention of, I'm going to make something ugly and I don't care, I know it's supposed to be ugly when I start, you'll be surprised how often it's not ugly by accident. But that's, I think, a really good way to learn, and I think that would be one of my biggest tips. And don't start with a portrait. Even if you're interested in painting people, hold off on that until you've gotten a better feel for the medium. It'll make it easier. One of the things that I used to do too a lot for students who wanted to paint portraits is start them off with graphite or charcoal, depending on which you're more comfortable with. But use that to practice drawing people and shading. It's a lot easier to control than jumping straight into the paint. I'm going to add a little bit of this light blue in with this. We'll start blocking in portions of the lighter. Yeah, that's close enough. This is not even close, by the way, to what my end color is going to be. Again, all I'm really caring about are my values, and even that doesn't have to be exact right now. Yeah, once I started with the watercolor pencils, yeah, it was close enough to working with Inktense that while it was pretty new, there were things that I have to learn still, but it was close enough that I wasn't as lost as I expected to be. But if I wouldn't have just jumped in, I was never going to get anywhere. And then I finally do it, and I realize, oh my gosh, I love this. Now I want to do reviews and try a bunch of the different brands. But until I finally was like, I'm just going to jump in. I'm just going to do it. What's the worst that happens? I create something that's ugly. Nobody dies from that. This isn't like, oh, I don't know how to drive. I'm not going to take lessons. I'm just going to get behind the wheel and let's see what happens. It's not the same. With art, you can just see what happens. The only thing that I would be cautious of is if something's toxic that you're using, you be aware of that if you're using toxic materials, or if you're airbrushing, don't do what I did that one time where I did not wear a mask and was using bad practices, and I had a whole room full of smoke or that airbrush paint that hadn't settled yet. I was inhaling. That wasn't so good. But besides that, just see what happens. Just start painting. And let's see. Weewa World said, I am constantly drawn to drawing birds, but have a hard time deciding what species to draw. What are some of your favorite birds to draw? Flamingos. Definitely flamingos. Really chickadees too. Now chickadees are fun because they're much more simple. There's not as much. So like I can do a chickadee, have one done in a night. Whereas a flamingo, I'm going to spend many, many nights. That's, a lot more work. But those two I do a lot. Ravens I do a lot. No, wait, I don't do a lot. I draw them more if I'm sketching. I love ravens. I've painted them a few times. Trying to think what else. Those are probably my favorites. I'm looking around my studio right now. Owls. Oh, I love painting and drawing owls. Those are really fun. So I think part of it is just going to depend on how much time do you want to spend on it. An owl, you're probably going to spend more time than you would on a chickadee. or a house sparrow or something like that. So is it something that you want to spend a few days on, a few weeks? You know, that I think would make a difference for me on which one that I choose to work in. Now, see how I've got a lot of brush strokes here? I don't care. I'm going to blend those out later. Doesn't really matter. Oops, you just scrolled too far. Are you guys starting a hashtag? What are you hashtagging? Sounds fun. I just scrolled too far. It was something about a studio. Ah, why are you doing this to me, computer? Not computer, because this is a YouTube thing. There we go. Yeah, that scrolled too far. So I missed whatever hashtag you're doing. You should post again. I'll announce it for if you guys choose a hashtag you're sharing your work on or something. I mean, I don't really know what you're doing. I saw my name and I saw a hashtag and then something else. Let's see. Aloria said, do you find that certain subjects sell better than others? No, I really haven't. And that kind of surprised me. I thought, like, when I moved to Texas, that I would start having it's how am I going to sell marine life? That was actually right around the time I got kind of bored. I had painted so much marine life at the time. But I was thinking, oh, I live in Texas. I should paint cows because it's Texas and let's go with the stereotypes. It didn't make a difference. Especially with us, we paint online anywhere, sell online. I found just getting a name out for myself is what made the difference. Having, selling stuff, I find it to be easier to sell things when someone's seen it in person. So, when I have stuff displayed at the Frisco City Hall, those are more likely to sell than online because when someone sees it, it always, at least with mine, they almost always look better in person than they do in photograph. I think a lot of it is the depth that you see. But that, I've got a chunk of paint that is starting to dry. I'm going to have to wipe that or fix my palette. It's never really been the subject so much. The wildlife has done well for me, but that's just kind of the audience that I've built. That's not to say wildlife is what will sell better. And if you're asking because you want to sell, that's actually a good question. And I have lots of opinions on that. Shocker, right? I have opinions on stuff. Here's the thing. When you're painting and drawing, you want to paint and draw things that you are drawn to, that you are interested in. Don't paint it because you think it sells better or because it's more popular. If you do that, especially, okay, let's say, what's something that's super popular? Well, Thomas Kincaid's really popular. And I've heard people say this. Thomas Kincaid, that style, is really popular. So that's what I'm going to paint because that's what's going to sell. Not really. One, now you're competing against Thomas Kincaid. Who wants to do that? That guy was amazing at the type of work that he created and the way he did his lighting. It seems to be something that a lot of artists miss out on. It's like, it's not the subject in that case, it's the way his lighting was. And I think that's the case so often too. A lot of times for the artist, what you're drawn to isn't necessarily the subject, but the light. For example, I actually just bought one of my first pieces of artwork from somebody, Chris Austin Art. He's a Canadian artist. He does these, actually does all kinds of surreal stuff and animals, and I love his work. I've been following him on Instagram for a while. So he had posted a painting for sale he was doing ravens, and with the campfire in the background in the forest, and there's just something that was smaller. So I'm like, I wish he would put the price. I probably would have bought stuff from him way before. He just always says, contact me for the for information if you're interested in buying. Well, in my mind, that means I can't afford it then. If you have to tell me to contact you, I probably can't afford it. But I was like, and they're small, maybe my birthday's coming up. If it was under 200, that could be my birthday present from my husband. So it's, I contacted him. Turns out $170, and it was a raven. So pretty. Well, somebody bought it right before I got to him, so I wasn't able to buy that one. His other ones ended up selling. He ended up with another one. He said, I still have this one available. Apparently no one had liked that one as much. It was a green sky instead of the blue. And I agree. It's not as striking as the blue. I just want one of his paintings. I'm excited about it. And that one was cheaper. And same size, but cheaper. I think that that one wasn't selling because of the color. It wasn't the subject. The subject was the exact same as the others, but the lighting wasn't quite as striking as the other ones. So they're both beautiful. I mean, his work is always amazing. But I can see where people would jump on these ones because of the lighting more so than these ones. Subject same. Same artist, same subject. The difference, basically, the colors. That's it. And so your lighting, your contrast, that sort of thing will make a difference with, and, and just to be clear, I'm not bashing him whatsoever on that. I see why people were drawn to the one. I bought the one that was with the green background. I just was so excited to get one of his, so I still think it was absolutely stunning. But it wasn't as striking. It didn't draw you in as much as the other ones. So sometimes your values, your contrast, that sort of thing matters more than the subject anyway. That will draw people in. But when you try to do something because it's popular, you get lost in the crowd. So let's say you're doing pet portrait art, or you're a pet portrait artist and you're trying to sell prints. You think, okay, golden retrievers, super popular breed. I'm going to start painting these because it's popular. I'll sell more. No, you now have more competition because other people thought the same thing. So many people are painting golden retrievers. Try painting a rare breed. So like with me, Italian Greyhounds are, rare compared to a golden retriever. I got a lot of sales because of those, and I would sell prints for Sighthounds because there weren't a lot of people doing it. That yes, the breed's not as popular as a golden retriever, but there's also not as many artists painting that. Don't try to paint something because you think it'll sell more. And because it sells more for one artist doesn't mean it'll sell that much for the other. There's so many factors involved in building a name for yourself, and the artwork and the color, the composition. There's so many things are involved, not just what subject sells more. Wow, I way went beyond what I think you were asking there. But it's a good subject. Sarah Makes Art, hi Sarah, says, I get the feeling video length is more important for growth now than upload frequency. For example, Amy Landino just uploads once a week now, but it's longer and she's averaging 1K subscribers a day. Okay, so YouTube is favoring longer watch time. You want to make a video as long as it needs to be. Don't make a video long because you want to make a video long. Her videos are doing well, not because they're long, but because of the content she's providing and how she's advertising and getting out and getting it on social media. What she's doing is what's bringing them in, not the video length. I don't usually watch her videos because I don't want to watch a video that long. It just depends on what it, now, if it was a subject that I was super interested in, sure, but it's not because of the length that's doing it. YouTube does favor right now watch time, so that is a big deal. They want people watching for as long as possible. But don't make a video long because you think that that's what gets you the subscribers or gets the views. Make it as long as it needs to be. So, example, my video of the octopus painting of Sir Schooner. That was like 40 minutes, 48 minutes. It was a long video for me for a tutorial. The one I'd done before was a colored pencil, like a beginner guide to powder blender. That one was abnormally long. The video they needed to be that long. The video for the Rosella, the burden colored pencil that went up on Sunday, didn't need to be as long, so I made it, it was 28. Make it as long as it needs to make for good content. But don't try to make a video longer for the sake of making it longer. That will not work at all. Like at all, because then you've got a higher abandonment rate, and that actually works against you. And people are like, okay, this is boring. I don't want to watch this anymore. And yeah, no, definitely, it's not, if she's doing well, it's not because they're longer. It's because of what she's doing, and she's making those videos better. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I actually haven't watched hers recently, so I'm not positive, but hers were getting into more vlogging, which wasn't what I personally was as interested in. Not that that's bad, it's just not what I was looking for. So that's why I'm not watching them as much. But it had nothing to do with the length. I mean, really, it was the subject. That wasn't something I was personally interested in. So that's not why I watch. But how many times do you start a video and you're like, oh my gosh, get to the point? Which those of you watching the live stream may be feeling that way. It's a live stream. It's different animal. But don't... you will lose people if it's just long for the sake of being long. If it's long because it needs to be long, just make it. Now, one of the things that I do think is really nice that has definitely shifted when it comes to YouTube videos. I'm actually going to clean this palette off. What's happening, I don't know if you can see this. See the chunk? I'm getting chunks that started to dry. So I don't want that in my painting. So let's make it easier on myself. And I'm just going to grab my little guy here. And we're going to scrape this off and start fresh. So I'm not fighting against that anymore. It doesn't bother me to have to remix it. What bothers me is to have dry paint coming through. And the only way to really avoid that is if you're using a stay wet palette where you've got like it's a stay wet palette. I don't need to really describe it more than that. I don't like those. I don't like blending on them, so it's not for me. But those will avoid that. For me, no matter what kind of palette I work on, this is going to happen, but this is the only palette that I can just scrape it off and start fresh and have a clean palette without okay, I have to grab a clean one or change the foil. I used to use a tin foil method. Anyway. Um, but yeah, what I'm doing now, and I guess that this is probably what she's doing based on what you said, is just trying to make the videos I do upload. I'm not uploading as many, but I'm trying to make the ones that I do upload better, higher quality, more interesting. I'm just trying harder on the one, like let's, instead of uploading 4, let's upload 1, but make that one better than all 4 would have been combined, is like what my thought process is there. And I have a feeling it's probably what she's doing. I think it's what a lot of YouTubers are doing, because before you had to keep it originally. Like when I first started with YouTube, you had to go really, really short and to the point, or you would lose people. If anything was over 2 or 3 minutes, gone. Any 3 minutes was pushing it. It had to be really short or they dropped off, and then that hurt all kinds of stuff. So that's, different and good. I like it better now, because now you can pretty safely make the video as long as you think it needs to be, without worrying about, well, I'm going to lose people, they're not going to watch it. Just make it how long it needs to be, not long for the sake of making it long. Yeah, that's a good idea. Gail Perkins said, for using, how I was talking about with resting your hand, the mall sticks, pull sticks, pull billiard sticks work great too. Those absolutely would. Plus, they're kind of cool looking. Now I want one of those in my studio. I just think that would look cool. Let's see. Okay, Kathleen said, quirky question. The teal of your website is more blue or green? What color Polychromos would it be closer to? Just curious. I think it's closer to green. It's kind of like a phthalo blue or phthalo green. It would be like this, which is considered phthalo green, is very close to what color I'm using. But yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know what color that would be for Polychromos, but I think it would be closer to green. It depends on your monitor too, because I'll look on one monitor and it looks more blue than others, and some it's really light and green. That will make a difference too. But on mine, that would be it. Jesse Ramirez said, if you had to pick a different profession besides artist, what would you choose? Musician. I'd go back to making music would be I have to create. That's like my whole, I don't know. I'm not happy if I'm not creating things. Whoops, scroll too far. Whoa, I missed a lot of questions. Where did we go? Okay, there we go. I think I'm caught up. Aloria said, we were talking about showing our studio setups using hashtag Lachri Group Studios. Oh, that sounds good. I want to see your guys' studios. You should, yeah. Even if you're watching this live stream later, if you want to use that hashtag Lachri Group Studios, we can all go check out your studios. That'd be fun to see. JPC13 Art said, owls are much all-time favorite subject. You're on mobile and it's auto-correcting you, aren't you? Yeah, it hates me too. So I'm guessing that is, owls are my favorite subject to draw paint. My art friends roll their eyes now every time I start an owl. Yeah, it's like me and flamingos. I'm not sure what I've done more of though, flamingos or owls. I've done a lot of both. Let's see. Spooky's Hideout says, I've heard that there's a way to use a blender from alcohol-based markers to blend colored pencils like Polychromos. Would you recommend that tool? No, because I don't know enough about it, and I'm afraid it would dry the paper or react weird to the paper. I know from what I've researched that the odorless mineral spirits works well. I know alcohol can work. I've seen it work. I just don't know archival-wise. I just haven't done the research in it, so I don't want to tell you it will or it won't. I want to say I remember reading someone say it didn't. I didn't do the research myself, so I don't know for sure. But that it caused some issues, I don't know. I'm not going to recommend it unless you contact, I guess, art manufacturers, see if someone's done testing. I don't know how it would last long term as far as being archival. Did I ever do art fairs? Yes, I used to when I first started. There are a few in California. I did one at Catalina Island. I did that one a couple of years. That one was the most fun. And it wasn't that I made a ton of money doing it. Actually, quite the opposite. I think I might have broken even 1 year, because you've got the hotel room, which is extremely expensive, especially during an art fair weekend. You have all the different, it gets expensive. The ferry ride over, parking when you leave your car for the weekend over on the other side of on the mainland. That one but it was so much fun. So that one, I don't know that it did anything to better my career. Actually, that was where I won an award. But I'm not sure that I could say, other than being able to say I'm an award-winning artist now, that it did anything to better my career, but it was so much fun. But then there were other art shows that I did where I felt like I did one for the Yorba Linda Arts Alliance, or somewhere in a Yorba Linda something or another in California. And that one was okay. It was too much work to set up and tear down. And you've got to remember too, though, because of my health stuff, anything that's physically draining is like I can hardly walk by the next day. Like I'm so tired. It's just it was too much, and it wasn't worth, like, you're not going to sell much at a lot of these art fairs. It depends on the art fair though, because there's some, like for Laguna Beach in California will have a big huge one that lasts like 2 weeks or something. It's a big one. From what I've heard, artists make great money doing those. But I never did that. I didn't have the money because it was really expensive. It was like thousands of dollars for your table or booth or whatever for the time. There was no way at the time that I could afford to do it. So that wasn't something in my budget then. So I never tried it. Plus, realistically, I was newer with painting. I don't think I would have sold enough to matter. It was beyond my skill level and financial ability for that one at the time. So that, I mean, but then it goes back to, it just depends on the show or the art fair. Some people made way, was so worth it to them depending on the show, and some it was just really not for me. The ones that I was entering, I felt like it was more physical work than it was worth, and then I would have paintings get damaged, and that's another thing. Wind blows and then something falls, something gets damaged. I have damaged some expensive paintings doing those. It just got to the point where I was like, this isn't worth it. Didn't make sense for me at the time. But again, a lot of that has to do with which art shows I was doing. So I'm just kind of paying attention to lights and so I can't wait for you guys to see once this is done. Like what I'm doing now is going to look so different. Just blocking stuff in. But yeah, I used to do them. Sometimes they're really fun, and it's worth even the fact that I wasn't making much money doing it. And sometimes it was just too much work and things got damaged and it wasn't really worth it. Judy Gardner, let's see, actually, I bet everyone else answered you that one. Let's see. Melanie McDonald said, I have a friend that wants me to paint a dolphin scene mural. Any suggestions or advice? So if you're doing a mural, paint it on a wall, check the wall, make sure the surface is decent. Like if you paint outside, like I have painted I would not do it again, but I had some people wanted me to paint. It was really weird. It was their 3 daughters when they were kids. They wanted them painted as cherub angels out in their backyard on a cement, why am I not thinking of the word? It was a retainer wall, which meant basically water was always going to be coming through there. And you have to do research to the surface you're painting on. So the best thing I could do here, and I let them know over time, this is going to peel up. There's no way to seal that kind of a wall that's up against moisture. The cinder blocks is what a cinder block wall. It will come up over time. Honestly, it was the tackiest thing I think I'd ever seen. It's what they wanted. They loved it. Oh God, was it ugly. It was weird that like from their kitchen, they could look out over what was actually a really pretty yard, this tacky blue clouds and their daughters that were cherub angels. Like it was the weirdest, most tacky thing I'd ever, they loved it. So whatever. But, I knew, and I warned them from the research I had done, this will end up peeling over time. You're going to have someone come in and do, touch-ups on it. So that watch, if it's a wall, like you're painting indoors, which most of the time is going to be the case. If it's a wall that has a lot of texture, it's really bumpy, those suck to paint on. It's just not fun. I'm going to warn you about that. It's hard to get your details and it's just annoying. Use bigger paint brushes for sure. Don't try to use like these little ones I'd use for tiny details. Liner brushes, not even going to touch on a big mural. For if it's a smooth wall, that's way, way easier. And what you can do a lot of times is not, when I was doing the smaller details for things, I would use my Liquitex Basics, and I like that because it had kind of a flat finish, and I used a satin house paint for my background so that they looked like they kind of both went together. I don't want to use a high gloss acrylic with a matte background. It would be weird. Parts would be shiny. It'd look like a sticker and parts wouldn't. So you want to try to use, if you're going to mix paint, like house paint for the big portions for your base, make sure it's a similar finish to whatever paint you're using on top. If you're going to use a gloss base, use a gloss paint. That would be my big tip, and use big brushes. And snack. This was one of my problems. I wouldn't eat. When I start painting, it's really easy for me to forget to eat, and I would go and do these murals and not eat all day, and I'd feel like crap by the end of the day. I felt so horrible. So that was definitely, make sure you bring snacks. Like when I would go do a mural at someone else's house, I finally learned, bring a bunch, for me, I just would bring a bunch of broccoli and carrots, and I would snack on those all day. And while, yeah, it doesn't taste good, or, you know, that's kind of boring when you don't, that's all you're eating, but it made me feel really well for getting that work done. This is way too light. I need to darken that up. And I have, hold on one second. I have a restricted number call, which is usually my mom, and a voicemail. Oh no, they hung up. Never mind. It's not important. I always worry if it's restricted in case my mom needed something, or, you know, just want to make sure I'm not ignoring my parents. But yeah, do your research, whatever paint you're going to use, to make sure it's suitable for the surface you're painting on. And for big background things, I just got house paint from, you know, a few basic colors to do that. And then I would use my Liquitex Basics for the detail stuff or anything on top. If it was, let's say I had one person had me come in and do a mural of I call it camouflage. She wanted camouflage colors. So greens, like army green, cream, real muted grays, and it was supposed to be clouds. And I warned her, this looks like camouflage. No, those are the colors she wanted. And the kind of clouds she wanted weren't just sky poofy clouds. It was for her son's room. And she had me do the sidewall, part of the sidewalls, and the whole ceiling, and then a wall behind. It was mainly the wall behind than the ceiling. So she had me come in and do it. And she showed me a painting another artist had done before, and she was complaining she didn't like the way the artist did it and had a lot of complaints. That should have been a red flag for me, like, okay, she's going to be kind of on the picky side. But she had me do those colors, and I warned her. And looking back, I would have been more determined, like, to say, hey, seriously, I don't think you realize the seriousness of this. The colors, she went and bought the colors herself. They were camouflage colors. These clouds are going to look like camouflage. No, it'll be fine. All right. She showed me a photo of the cloud she wanted me to paint. That's what I painted. It looked like camouflage. At the end, she wasn't happy because it looked like camouflage. I warned you. I showed you, because I actually took the photo of the cloud she wanted and showed her what that would look like on the ceiling. Because when you look at clouds this way versus this way, they're very different. And if you do certain cloud types on the ceiling, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look like clouds. And especially when you're not even using colors that are typically seen in the sky. It didn't look like the sky. And she didn't believe me. And looking back now that I'm more experienced, I would have turned down the job or said, no, you need to or sign a waiver and say, you understand that I've warned you of this. Now, luckily, she wasn't the type to turn around and sue, but some people would. That would be a problem for some people. So that could have ended up being a problem. And she was actually nice. She was just really picky, but also didn't listen to my advice, which was kind of frustrating. But that would be the other thing, is to make sure you're very clear. Like, if you as an artist know, and this would be the case no matter what you're painting, but on a mural, if you know something's going to look a little bit weird when it's painted on the ceiling versus this way, because your eye or your brain perceives it differently. It's almost like taking something and putting it upside down as you're working to make sure your work is accurate to your reference photo. You put something upside down and it tricks your brain. Your brain no longer assumes that those are clouds. They're like, wait, what am I looking at right now? So, and that's basically what she had happen, but she didn't believe me that that's what was going to happen. And I think I should have been more like, no, seriously, this is actually a thing that you are not going to like. But no, she was sure. And I was right. So I think as an artist, when you're doing something for someone else, if you know something's not going to look right, make sure that you're very clear about that so they can't come back and be angry. Okay. Let's see. Tracy says, I'm super allergic to a lot of painting materials commonly used in oils, and I have to use a lot of different materials. Love when you talk about light fast and using masks, etc. Yay. Hi, Barbara. Back to Sarah Makes Art said, on the topic of painting in a group, what would you think about starting a thread in the Facebook group where we said what city we live in for purposes of finding people to get together with to paint? I would say do not post that on the internet. I don't think that's the best way to do it. And I don't know that I would want to be responsible for what happens in the group. That's why, there are things that people like to do, like art trades and such. I don't like that in the group. I don't do that at Christmas time. People are doing things because I don't want to be responsible. You will almost always have somebody who either tries to take advantage of when, someone's giving away art supplies or whatever, or doesn't follow their turn. I don't like to get yeah, I just don't like to be responsible in the group. I think it's cool, but I would worry about meeting up with people online. Now, let's say you put together an art group and you wanted to meet together at a park for an outdoor event. That, go ahead and post. That I have no problem with. An outdoor public type thing. But like anytime where people are being invited to someone's homes, I'm like, I don't recommend it, so I don't want that in the group. That's kind of gets into scary stuff. There are some weirdos out there. We like to think that everyone's like us and like, oh, it'll be fun. Everyone's going to be great. No, there are some weirdos out there that will, when you talk to them on the internet, they sound normal. And then you meet them and you're like, oh, where's my pepper spray? So, I'm a bit paranoid. But if it was something that I think you were doing as like a group thing, like at a park or something like that, I'd be all for you sharing. But if it's something like you're inviting people to your home, not for the group. That is just me worried about your safety. Judy asked if I'm familiar with Terry Redlin. No, I am not. I will have to check that person out. Marilyn said her grandson just said the dolphin is wearing a mustache. He's not wrong. Let's see. Did I miss? Oops, scrolled way too far. Again, we're shocked, I know. Let's see. Have I tried my Caran d'Ache watercolor pencils yet? No, they come tomorrow. Well, it's Amazon, so they may come in a month, but they're supposed to be here tomorrow. Tracy said she can't use OMS, so she's looking for a replacement from Art Treehouse. I don't know anything about Art Treehouse, but any suggestions are welcome. Zested, a lot of people have done well with. I've not tried it myself. It's supposed to have a real strong orange scent, which to me, I like orange. I don't like things with strong scents that are my art supply, so I'm a little hesitant. I'm going to have to just break down and buy it one of these days and try it, but let's go down. Gail said, I've had success painting murals on the soft side of Lewin panels, double primed and sealed. I don't know what a Lewin panels? I don't know what that is. Well, usually when someone says mural, it means wall. So, and that may be what that is. I don't know. But, yeah, so I'm not sure. I don't know what it is. Somebody let me know. Do I ever paint digitally? Yes, I do. I have some on my website there. Scroll too far again. Hilaria said it would be fun to have a place to put our upcoming shows. That might not be a bad thing. Joseph, do you know about Joseph or the art of Joseph Incham? He knows so much more about the group stuff, what they can do. He keeps up on stuff better than I do. Do you know if there's a way to put like events that are coming up for artists? I don't know. I don't usually do anything that advertises a lot of stuff just because I don't want to turn the group into an advertisement. But if like little art shows, maybe it might be kind of cool to have a list like we do with our personal websites or our social media. I don't know if that would be practical. We'll talk about it because I may not be thinking right now of practical reasons why that isn't a good idea for the group. We'll have to talk about that later. Let's see. Esme said there are pan pastels where you don't need to touch the pastels with your fingers. Would you ever try those? I have tried them. I don't like them. I don't like pastels. I love how they look. Let me be clear. If you work in pastels, you probably create some absolutely stunning work. The work that can be created has made me interested in trying them, but every time I do, I'm like, nope, not for me. They're messy too. No, even if you're not touching them, they're messy. I don't want to breathe that in, says the person who oil paints and airbrushes. But they're just not, I don't like I like here, this is dry, I can run my hand across it, it doesn't come off. Colored pencil, doesn't come off. Powder blender a little bit, depending on how much you seal it. But it feels complete to me. And I feel like with pastels, no matter how many times you seal it, it will always come like a lot come off onto your hand. You have to be so careful with the storage. And even when you mat it, you've sealed it, you mat it, you'll always have the dust end up on the mat. It never is really permanent. And those to me are reasons they're not for me. It doesn't mean they're bad, it just means they're not for me. So even if I'm not getting it on my hands, it's just not my preference. Watch, one of these days Smart Art Box is going to include pan pastels and I'm going to have to use them. But Yeah, just not the work though. I mean, if you look at work people have created with them, they're stunning. I absolutely understand why people love working in them. The work that creates are beautiful, but I have so many other mediums that I prefer that stick more. Like I feel the same about charcoal. I actually like charcoal. They don't weird me out as bad. I haven't worked in them lately. I don't know. Maybe I've gotten more neurotic and it would bother me. But charcoal, I think, is really, really a cool medium, but they just, it always kind of smudges. And like I used to do more with what are they, carbon pencils, so it's somewhere between like a charcoal and a graphite. But even that, it's the same thing. I always feel like it's messy, I'm gonna mess it up, and I just don't like that. I like artwork that I'm not going, that I don't have to be responsible and make sure I don't smudge, which is on me more than the medium. Pix by Lee said, for reference photos you used, do you have them pristine when pixel peeping zoomed in 100% or more, or is a bit of grain which looks like colored pencil work okay? For reference photos? I mean, I don't know if I'm reading that right. And no particular reason, but do you have a DVD drive on your computer? No, I don't. I don't think that I have a slot for it, but I don't think I actually have the drive in there. I think it's just an empty slot on my computer case. So I'm going to go with no on that. But for reference photos, do you have to have them? You don't have to have them super clean. I like them to be clear, the reference photos, as much as possible, but they don't have to be. And there's times where I have a reference photo that I want to use, but it's not super like amazing. Even photos that I've taken myself. And sometimes when I blow things up, just depending on the photo, they get pixely because the photo wasn't that large to start with. I obviously like them to be as clean as possible, but they don't have to be. I prefer it, if I'm reading that right. I might not be reading that right. Valerie said she thinks that Smart Art Box has already done pan pastels their first year. Well, they'll redo stuff too, to where it's not necessarily like the same. Like they may have done Inktense blocks, they may end up doing Inktense pencils. Like, so they'll redo stuff or try a different type of project with stuff. Not often, but let's see. Part of me wants to say, well, I also said I wouldn't do watercolor, and look how much I'm like absolutely in love with my watercolor pencils. So we can all thank Derwent for that one. But pastels, I think, is too much of a, even if I got over the other things with it, they just, no. I'm just too neurotic. It's gotten worse as I've gotten older, too. So see, again, what I'm talking about with this, where I was mentioning before, it's almost like a paint by number. You can see just definite. It's not super blended. This doesn't look realistic. And gosh, I can't wait for you guys to see what it's going to look like. I'm just building in. I don't have to pay attention. It's not stressful. And this is one of the things, too. Let's say you're having a day where you're like, I don't want to pay attention. I want to watch a movie while I'm painting. I want to not, have friends over. This is the type of busy work where you're not worrying about things being perfect. It's kind of a good thing to work on those days. All I'm doing is blocking, just mapping out where I will end up blending and where I will end up making things look good later on. Being very sloppy, very messy. Let's see, Crystal's Art said, I'd like to know the powder blender fixative that you use for colored pencil work. Well, would it work on pastels? It can, but I wouldn't recommend it. The thing with the powder blender, it is using a formula that had to be very, very specific to work on the oil and wax-based pencils. So it can't have like, was it water? I forget the science behind it because I've actually talked to them about this. It had to be very, very specific to work for colored pencil. With pastels, you can get the downside with, okay, I'm jumping ahead here. So one of the things that the powder blender fixative does, it can spit a little bit and it causes little droplets. Not a problem for colored pencil. Pastels can be a problem. So would it be my choice for pastels? Pastels already have fixatives that don't spit as much. So that's what I would go with for that. With powder blender, that's the nature of what worked well for, like really well for colored pencil for that product. Doesn't matter for that. It's not going to affect the colored pencil negatively, but with pastels, you can get some weird results. So I wouldn't, you can use it. It would be archival, but it probably also wouldn't be my first choice. My husband, Joel said, my husband asked the other night, what did you do to your forehead? Then rubs his thumb there and says, charcoal. Yeah, I always, because you guys see me, my nose itches a lot, and especially this time of year. This time of year and fall are the worst. Well, winter's the only time it's not so bad. It actually continues. There's always something out there that's making me have an allergic reaction. But I'll scratch my nose a lot, or like rub around my edge of my nose here, and I will have a line of paint or something always on the edge here of my face. Like, there's so many times I finish the live stream, I'll go in the restroom and see that, where I've got like paint on the side of my nose because I kept scratching. I so know what you mean. Trey Moss said, you didn't like watercolor, but you liked watercolor pencils. Maybe since you don't like pastels, you might like pastel pencils. No, I tried those. Oh, they freaked me out. I did pastel pencils not long ago with a Smart Art Box. Nope. That's a big nope. And I might like watercolor now. I actually am thinking that I may get, eventually, once I'm done testing out all the watercolor pencils, I don't want to say all. I want to do Faber-Castell. I want to do Super Color, which isn't the same as their watercolor pencil, but I want to do those two, both the Caran d'Ache. I want to compare the two because I was curious myself what the difference was. So I'm like, hey, that would make for a good video. So eventually I'll buy those. But I've got to save because I just spent way too much on all this stuff. But they... yeah, I don't see that happening. But the watercolors, those I do think I will end up doing because, yeah, I'm a fan now. Let's see. Esme said, I've seen your work on the Derwent tins at my art store, and it's beautiful. Congrats on that. Thank you. Take pictures. If you guys are ever in an art store, check their Inktense. If you can get a photo of yourself with the turtle or the dolphin that I painted, I would love to see it. Post it on social, tag me in it, whatever. I would love to see that. I'm excited. My art's traveled way further now because of those, so yay. Let's see. Jose wants to know if I've ever tried stippling art. Yeah, I did years ago. I am not patient enough for that. It is when it's done right. There was an artist I used to follow who did that. It was beautiful. I don't know what happened to him, but no, I think it looks so neat, but it is not for me. I am not patient enough. Which it says the colored pencil artist. That's one of the slowest mediums, but it looks really cool. Start getting some of these other colors in here. And this blue is going to be way too much, but I'm going to layer other colors on top so it won't be so much. Let's see. There we go. Okay. I'm going to actually paint in his eye really quick because it looks weird to me. Kind of creeping me out. Let's rinse that brush off, and I'm going to switch. Which brush do I want to use for this? I guess my liner works for drawing it in. How is it already 9:37? Time goes by so fast when we do these live streams. Okay. One of the things I used to try to do when I would paint dolphins or any kind of marine life, I try to make their eyes look like a dog eye or a cat eye or something. Don't do that. It looks weird. I don't even think I'm going to follow this reference photo as close as it is. I think that'll look weird too, but it's mostly going to be black with a bit of shine. But I would try to do like, here's the iris is like dark brown or blue, and here's the little lines and all the detail, and it always looked really weird. Like when I go back and look at the artwork that I did that on, it's like, that was not good. I'm just going to get that in black. I can come back later and get details. Imperfectly Laura said, cross-stitching is even slower than colored pencil in my experience. I'm looking forward to doing new cross-stitch pieces with your artwork in the next few months. Oh, please share. I would love, she's been selling, okay, so those of you guys who don't know, I posted in the email newsletter today, and I shared some of it on social media, but Sunshine, is it Sunny Shines? Oh, I forgot the name. Cross-stitching. She has been using my artwork for years, some of my older stuff. Well, she just recently updated it with some of her shop with a bunch of my newer pieces. I have never seen a finished piece of the work there because it's like, I don't see who buys it or anything like that, but I've never ever seen anything completed. I would love, if you do one of those patterns, I would absolutely love to see what you finish. Let's see. Could you use medium with your acrylic paint like glazing. Absolutely. I'm not using it today, but there is Liquitex Basics. They make a decent medium. I use them quite a bit. I like the way that the results I get with water better. Usually. There are some times with glazing I way prefer their glazing medium. But when I'm blending like this, I prefer water. Usually. There are exceptions to everything. Okay, that's too wet. I'm going to let that dry a bit, and I'll come back and fuss over the eye a little bit more later on. Right now, okay, it actually is at an even creepier stage than it was to start with. That did not solve my creepy factor. Mix a little bit of blue with something that's super black. Aloria said, do you ever find yourself narrating your life after a live stream? I started explaining how I was serving myself spaghetti after my video. My husband was giggling at me. Oh my gosh, I know what you're talking about. You get so used to talking and explaining what you're doing. I don't do it so much like with other things. I do it when I'm painting, I'll be painting and like thinking in my head, okay, so this is why I'm doing this and this is why I'm doing that. I'm like, I'm not doing the voiceover yet. Stop it. I also did it. My friend was over a couple weeks ago and she wanted me to do the nail. She'd never had her nails with a nail stamp. I don't know if you can see well on this, but I do nail stamping and I clearly need to redo that one. But I do the pattern. These are like blue roses on this and it's really fun. And I was explaining as I was painting her nails, I was teaching her how to do it. She just wanted me to do her nails. She didn't care how I did it. But in my head, I'm used to teaching everything I do. So I'm telling her and talking through, and she was laughing at me for that I'm like narrating the whole nail painting process. I don't know, maybe she wanted to do it on her own someday. She now would know how, I guess. But that's funny. I definitely know what you're talking about. So this paintbrush, it's a synthetic hog here, so it's already stiff, but it's like really getting too stiff. I'm gonna have to use the Masters. Wait, which one is it? I think it's the Masters. Our paintbrush cleaning stuff, or it's like a soap it's soap and conditioner. What I'll do is I'll work this into the soap and let it set overnight and it'll soak it and condition it and the brush will go back to normal, but it's definitely getting a bit damaged from me just using water too many times in a row to clean. And I've got all of that again. It's all linked over on my website because I don't think I have that in the description. But whatever I use is listed there, but that will save that brush because it's not working the way it should. I'll have to do a bit of work on that later. Let's see. Gracie's Art Corner said, what polish do you use? Because mine is terrible. I used to use mostly OPI. I used a China Glaze base coat and then OPI for my actual color. But I've since switched and I now use an indie polish from one called the Dawn Diva, Dondeeva. If you go to her website, she has now her stuff. She mixes at the time of the order, so it'll take a couple weeks before you get it. But it lasts so much longer than my OPI did. And she has thermals, which are so much fun. They only last a year, so don't do what I did and stock up on too many that you're not going to use because they'll lose their color shift. But when my nails are cold, they'll be one color. When they warm up, they shift to another color, and it is so much fun. But hers are the ones I use, and just be forewarned, they're very adult names, so, maybe not open them with your 6-year-old sitting next to you. Some of the names of the polishes they're very adult. They're hilarious, but I also wouldn't want, like, my nephews reading that going, Aliza, what are you looking at right now? That doesn't look appropriate for us. So, you've been warned. But best polishes, and hers are the ones that I generally use. I use different stamping polishes because those you can use as long as they're opaque. Doesn't really matter. But for the base, right now, the only polish that I almost ever wear are from the Dawn Diva. Crystal the Art said I do watercolor. There are some paints you should try. I got Missions Gold Pure Pigment set, and one, the SSA Watercolor UK, is another you can get on Amazon. Oh, cool. Luckily, one of my best friends is a watercolor artist, and so she's all excited. She's been giving me lists of things to try, things she likes, things she doesn't. So I'm kind of excited to eventually try some of those. I want to go spend every last dollar I have and not pay my bills on all of the new watercolor paint, so I'm having to behave myself and, not do that. I mean, it was already a bit of a splurge to spend $300 on the Caran d'Ache pencils. But I'm so excited about making that video. It'll be worth it. Let's see. Valeria said, this tired kindergarten teacher is starting to drool on the keyboard. Time to go. Thanks for my answering and barrage of questions. Have a good night. You too. Thanks for joining. Pix by Lee said, yes, well, you were reading the question about reference photos, right? Okay, good. Sometimes I'll read them on here and I'm like, am I interpreting that right? Or just the fact my glasses are like, these are still new and I'm not quite used to how far away from the keyboard I need to be to see what I'm doing here. Let's see. Manny Good McCarthy said, still planning to get your Patreon site. Just a few health issues, but exciting goal to live for. Yay! I will be glad to have you. I'm excited. So speaking about Patreon, Patreon has changed. They basically made an API. They made it so it works with WordPress. So I can basically now build a website or build Patreon pages that are still behind the Patreon paywall. So those of you who are members of Patreon will get access to portions of the site that aren't available to other people, which pretty much means we can avoid Patreon's website and their really crappy search terms and those things. I love Patreon, but there are certain things that I just think they could do a better, well, all of us know they could do a better job of. Like, I would like you guys to be able to post photos of your work. I would like certain things, and I think I can build that off my website now. So I'm going to be working on that coming up. I think that we'll have a better, like maybe a forum that would just be for, Patreon only for certain things. So instead of right now where you have to go to Facebook to post your group challenges, I think that I will be able to have you do it straight through my website. I'm going to have to play around with that to find out for sure. But I know I can do it off WordPress. And I just read an article today, Divi, which is the theme that I use, showing you kind of a tutorial on how to make that work. And I'm like, it's the theme I use. I have Patreon. Let's see if I can make this more awesome for you guys. So hopefully that will get even better than it was. So you'll still have the same videos and such. And I'll post them still over at Patreon just in case my website isn't working one day. But you never know. Sometimes things go down. But it sounded like from what I was reading that we would be able to get way more features if I build it up or build a separate thing off my website for patrons. So I'm kind of excited about that. I think I'm going to start messing around with some of that tomorrow. So yay for that. Jesse Ramirez says that my intro with the chicken is awesome. Thanks. I'm actually going to use him for a lot of things because he's fun anyway. But he's probably going to be on a lot of intros for different things. Pix Bailey said, have I ever tried painting directly with bottled inks? No, just like with black, basically, is the only one I've ever really played with. I had it, and I have some here from Liquitex, theirs, and I just haven't played with them yet. I want to. I just haven't gotten that far. I have so many things I want to do. My new schedule, or the schedule that I started after all the health issues last year, I have time now to do more than what I used to. So I'm kind of having fun with all of the things that I'm like, oh, I want to try that. I will have time to do that now. So I'll just make videos out of it for you guys. Let's see. Phyllis said, watercolor and Inktense work well. I went too dark since I'm used to acrylics, and the white blocks gave me my clouds back. That's awesome. That's good to hear that you could use those together. And there's no reason you shouldn't be able to. They're both water-based. So that's cool. Let's scroll too far. There we go. JPC13 Art said, when you get watercolor art, you're going to buy them in pans or use the empty palette and fill it with cheap watercolor. I don't know, honestly. I'm going to talk to my expert friend Kendra, and see what she prefers. I'll probably end up trying everything. Mara said, a surreal painting with your gorgeous new plants mixed with an under ocean life would be amazing. Oh, that's such a good idea. Oh my gosh. You just gave me the best idea ever. Thank you for that, Mara. Oh, I'm kind of excited about, you're going to be seeing that. Maybe not, I don't know if it'll be these specific plants, but the plants and then the under, that's happening. Asterite 100 said, hey, this is kind of derailing the conversation, but do you still live in Texas? I do. Can't remember if you moved or not. Always thought it was cool. Someone I'm subscribed to is a local. Yep, I'm up in Grapevine. It is wonderful here. This is my favorite time of year, but when all the trees start waking up from their winter ugly sleep. So it's really nice here. The weather is everything is great in Texas right now. Let's see. Sass says, After hitting every art store in my neighborhood, I finally found a synthetic hair liner brush. I can't believe how hard they were to get here. Can't wait to use it myself. I hope you like it. Tracy said, may I ask what health issues? I had an abscess last year that didn't want to heal right. So they did the emergency surgery. And then I just had ongoing problems from that. Was started in June. And it wasn't until October I had my last surgery. And even after that, it was late October, I had the last of 3 surgeries. And then it took months after that still to heal. And we didn't know if it was going to be healed all the way. So yeah, that's the summary of the drama. Let's see. Megan said, with Inktense, do I need the pencils? Limited to 24 and have the bars. Nope, you don't need the ink. Well, and if you look at the tins of Inktense, the turtle was done completely with blocks. The dolphin completely with pencils. You can do just one or the other. If I could only choose one, I would personally go with the blocks. I feel like I can do more with the blocks. So I like them together, but if only getting one, blocks would be my preference. But you can do everything you need with one or the other. Let's see. Cam says she does, or he, actually I don't know if that's a he or she. I do watercolor and just got the Faber-Castell watercolor pencils. You will not regret trying them out. Yeah, those are going to be, I'm not sure if I'll do the super color or the Faber-Castell first, but yes, I will be doing that for sure. Good to hear you like it. Phyllis says the Northeast sucks. Yeah, I hear you guys are getting horrible weather right now. It makes me really enjoy ours. Ours is, it's night and it's like, I don't know. Alexa, what's the temperature? Alexa, stop. It's 55 in here right now, or 55 outside right now, and oh, yes, I'm happy. Alexa, stop. She doesn't want to stop. She wants to keep talking. Alexa, stop. She got started, got all excited, and wasn't going to stop talking. Let's see. Gail says that Luan is a smooth wood paneling, usually 4x8 or larger. So that goes back to the question from earlier tonight where I was like, I don't know what that is. That explains why I don't know what it is. Thank you for letting me know. Crystal said, SSA watercolor have sets of $8, $40, and $11 a tube if you want to start out. You are determined to get me started on those watercolors, aren't you? I'm so in love with the pencils right now that I think I'm going to stick with those for a bit. I want to get to where I'm really comfortable with them. That way when I do with the pans or the tubes, I can compare the two a little bit better for doing the review. Viridian said, Dick Blick has Daniel Smith brand watercolor pencil dot cards where you can test 238 colors of watercolor paints for like $20. Oh, wow. I don't like making swatches, though. I like to just jump into my project, so I'll end up just I probably won't do that. I'll probably just buy the actual enough to do a project with. Jose said, I'm one of your young followers. I'm a freshman, and I'm having my first art show in 2 weeks. Congratulations. At North Richland Hills. At my school in North Richland Hills. Congratulations. That's so cool. Tamara's laughing that Alexa got yelled at. Yeah, Alexa and I don't have... I don't know if any of you guys have the echoes. I love it. The main reason I got it is so I could have music in this room and in my living room, and when I'm walking it can continue in both. So I'm using it because they were actually inexpensive when you were looking for speakers, but I didn't need them to be good because I'm in an apartment. I don't actually want good speakers here or my neighbors would hate me. So anyway, that's what I got them for. And little things like that, like asking her, I'll be measuring something. I was measuring a table. I needed to get boxes for my art table. And I was measuring it. And it's like, oh, what's 50 something? I don't know, divided by 3. Because I can't do that in my head. And so I use her a lot for that. But I find myself so often, I'll ask her something and then feel guilty. Like I sounded rude when I asked her. Like I wasn't polite enough and apologize and think I'm apologizing to a computer. I'm an idiot. I don't know if you guys ever do that. But yeah, it kind of makes me laugh when I catch myself doing it. Have I looked into Daniel Smith I haven't looked into any watercolors other than watercolor pencils so far. Actually, I think one of the first people I'll talk to too, Lena Dania, I want to see what she paints with because she's a watercolor artist and I love her work. Definitely trust her opinion on that. So I'll probably end up talking to her and see what she recommends, and I'll talk to my friend who works in watercolor, see what she likes the best. But those two are probably two that I definitely trust their opinions of. Valerie said she apologizes to Alexa too. Yeah, that's And what's really funny is when she gets frustrated and she keeps telling you, like, I'll tell her to play, my usual one is play Vivaldi on Chicken's Echo. I can tell her from here just in case. And she'll do the, okay, playing B-52s on, no, I never, that had nothing to do with Vivaldi. And I'll repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And she just won't understand it. For whatever reason. And I don't think it's because I talk fast, because she usually understands. She understands me better than my husband understands me in most cases, but randomly, she'll not understand Vivaldi. She'll take it as B-52s, or the other day was Bob Marley. That one actually sounds kind of like it, so that one I understood. Chicken loved Bob Marley, by the way. We just left that playing for him because he got all excited. So, yeah, but every once in a while, if you call her names, that's not nice. Like, she'll make little funny comments to you. So you can be fairly abusive to Alexa, and she will respond. I said her name. She apparently responded to that. Let's see. Jennifer Kent said, do you think Derwent drawing colored pencils would be a good, inexpensive start for colored portraits? Color portraits. I don't know. Oh, wait. Derwent drawing. Sorry, I read that wrong. Derwent drawing. Yes, absolutely. They are wonderful. They're going to be harder for your details. You're going to want other pencils for your final details. But for the skin tones themselves, for the actual skin, yes, I love them for that type of blending. Tracy said, if you're ever looking for watercolor pans, it might be fun to try Sendler and Schmidt. Am I saying that Schminicki? I'm not going to get that right. Lena Dania does oils too. You might try Laura Leoba Brunker about her watercolors. Those are a lot of words I can't pronounce. Let's see. Esme said, you have to be nice to Alexa or she'll order thousands of dollars worth of dirt and ship it to your house. That would be hilarious. Although, you know what? I could use it to plant things, so, well, probably have to pay for it. She says she's not sure. I need to stop saying that name. Imperfectly Laura said, now I want a video of Chicken dancing to Bob Marley. Yeah, I'll have to, he was cute. He was just excited. Like, he got really active. He was moving all fast all over and moving from his branches all over. Like, he was just super excited. Deanie just said, you're in Texas. Wait a week, weather will change. Oh, yeah. Wait 12 hours and it will change. We'll have days where it's like 80 and then it'll drop down to 20 something at night randomly and then be cold the next day. Like, it'll stay in the low. Like, it's so weird here. So different from California. I always thought that the weathermen were always pretty accurate. I mean, California they were always accurate with what the weather was going to be in California, or pretty accurate. No, it's that the weather never changed in California. That's why they were accurate. It's not that they can predict weather all that well. Like, it cracked me up when I moved here, and I remember doing a meeting with a band I was in, and we met at, I think it's Starbucks or somewhere, and we're all sitting there talking, and then all of a sudden, it was super bright, sunny, everything's good. Storm comes in, random storm, no one was expecting, tornado warnings, everything. And I'm looking, I'm going, but the weather didn't even say it was going to rain. And they're like, so what does that have to do with anything? Yeah, I apparently thought that weathermen were always correct. They're not. It just changes here more than California does. Tamara said, have you ever tried a palette that has a lid and seals? That's what this is. You can spritz water in it and it keeps it for a long time, even overnight. Love mine. That's exactly what I'm using. These ones are, oh gosh. I get all these. I've got Master Son, Masters, The Masters. They're all trying to use that name too much. But that's what this one is. And it's, where's the lid? If I could see the lid, I could tell you what it is. It's in my video description. But it seals it off. And what I do with this one for acrylics, I just take a paper towel, get it wet, and leave it in the middle. And it keeps everything nice and wet when the lid is on. I love the setup so much. I can't believe I went so many years without working on the glass palettes, because now that I have it, it's like the best thing ever. And so many of you guys and other artists had suggested it. I'm like, no, it's not for me. I don't want it. I need to start listening to you guys, because apparently you know more than I do about what I'm going to like. Let's see. Yep, Valerie recommends the Daniel Smith and M. Graham. Hey, words I can say. I like it already for watercolors. Crystal's Art said, does colored pencil titanium white work on water-soluble graphite and other mediums? It should. The only thing that you might want to use it for, I would think, would be the graphite. But other mediums, I mean, if I'm working in acrylics, I'm just going to use acrylic. Inktense, I'm just going to use Inktense. That's going to be or bright enough. But you could use it over those just fine. It depends on the medium, I guess, how well it'll play together. Picks by Elise. You know what? It's been 2 hours. I'm done painting for right now. I'll come back to this. I'm going to stop the video. I will come back. Oh, I guess I got a lot further along than I thought I would tonight. I'll continue that later. I'll just answer some of your questions tonight. Let's see. Pix by Lee said you need to play Chicken some Irish Rovers music and like the Unicorn and some Irish jigs and see what he does. Our cows used to love Irish and Scottish music. I'll have to try that. Gail says thanks to Siri. Good. It's not just me. Heck, I bump into my microphone and I apologize to it. Joseph said, whether people only use non-conformational language, like maybe, possibly, might. Yeah, and I always thought that meant for sure, because that's how it was in California. Ours just didn't change. Nicole says, you should put GoPro in Chicken's room for a day and see what he does when you're not in there. That would be a cute video. He mostly sleeps when I'm not in there. When he hears me or sees me, that's when he gets all excited for the most part. But usually I know, like, I'll walk by. If I'm not in there, he's usually asleep. And I guess that's not totally true. If I push his cage by the window, he's more active then. So now that we've got sun again, it wasn't so fun for him when it was raining, but I'll have to do that now that it's nice again. Sass Popovich says, I was teaching my mom how to use Siri and I swore at her so my mom could hear her funny comments. And my mom was horrified. She told me she never raised me to be so rude. That's awesome. Have I tried those paper palettes? Yeah, I have tried paper palettes. They're okay in a pinch, but they wouldn't be my preference. Like they just aren't practical. And I like something that I'm not having to waste as much. That was the other thing I liked about this. I don't feel like I'm wasting tinfoil every time I paint, which was a thing. And that was always kind of eating at me. Like, I'm going through a lot of this. That seems not good. So this, I'm not having to throw any palettes away. So I really like that about this too. Oh, daylight savings is this Sunday? Oh, I have to change my hours again. I hate that. I'm glad you mentioned it, Valerie. Check music of Ashley McIsaac. Cool. I will do that. I'm hungry. Yeah, I can definitely tell it's near the end. It is dinner time. I have salad stuff waiting for me. Which, I'm lazy. It basically means spinach and tomatoes. That's a salad in my world. My stomach is growly. Let's see. Yeah, Megan said, yeah, need to save money and don't like throwing things away. Yeah, it was more expensive, I think, to buy the palettes initially. I have one for my oils, one for my acrylic, and the whole setup, I want to say Master, something like that, palette, whatever is in the video description. And the glass palette, it wasn't a cheap start, because I want to say the palette, or the one that seals was like 20, somewhere between 20 and 25, if I remember. Maybe it was 15. I don't know, but it was right around there. But the glass palette was around 40, 45. So that costs more, but now I don't have to buy tinfoil at all anymore. So I guess long term it's going to save me, but it was a little bit more of an investment to start with for sure. And now other people will do glass, just pieces of glass from like a frame. You can do that. This one's tempered glass, so it's supposed to be sturdier. I don't know how easy it is to break other glass. I was worried about that. That was one of my hesitations with using a glass palette, is that I break things easily and I was afraid I'd cut myself. And especially with the edges of the glass. And this one has, you can't really see here. Let's move it so you can kind of see. This one has the corners that are, I can't get it out, but the little rubbery things on the corners. So that made me feel safer because I'm such a klutz. So that was another reason I went with this instead of just making my own. Because a lot of artists will make their own. You can also, if you do make your own, I've seen people take like duct tape and put it around the edges so it wasn't as likely to cut them. But this is pretty, rounded. It's not the same. Like, I would never dream of running my finger across the edge of one of the glass when I frame the glass from frames. So, but it's a really thick glass, which is nice. So from what I can tell so far, it's definitely been worth the money. And I don't know if you may be fine with just using glass from like a frame that would fit in that. And perfectly, Laura said, that sounds like an awesome salad to me. Yeah, if it's easy, it's awesome in my world. I don't cook. I don't like to prepare things. Like when I make guacamole, this has nothing to do with art, but we're pretty much done. So we'll just chat. When I make guacamole, my idea of guacamole is avocado, diced onion, and salt. That's it. I love it. It's really good, but that's like the extent of my, yeah. Do I think a white palette would be better? Danita asked. I went with gray because I can easily see my white up against it, and it makes it, I think the gray is a little bit easier to see my color. I've never loved painting on white. Like, I have some of the white palettes They work. I mean, I think it's personal preference, but I really liked the gray. It made it easier for me to see my color, and it also makes it really easy for me to see how translucent a color is before I hit the canvas sometimes, because I almost always have something under it on the canvas. So up against the gray, it's kind of, I don't know, it just seemed to be easy for me to judge. Now, this, of course, I used to paint on tin foil, and so I was used to that kind of tone. That's how my brain, like, translate colors, so that worked better for me. Jennifer said, can you store your paint with 3 glass palettes? 3 glass, I think that means you might have said, but how do you clean it? Just, okay. Yeah, I'm going to leave my paint in here until it dries or I'm done painting. And then when I'm done, it just scrapes right off. And you would have seen it at the beginning. You can see it comes right off. Now this is starting to dry. And for acrylics, I find it works best for the areas that are starting to dry. I just take a spray bottle and lightly mist any areas that are a little bit dry. And then if this water gets in with the paint that stays wet, it doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt it. But now it'll really easily scrape anything dry. Like, it gets all those bits off. So I don't end up with chunks anywhere. But it's nice because while I'm painting for the day, like, stuff starts drying and I start getting those chunks. And anyone who's been painting with acrylics knows how that is where an area starts to dry. It's so easy to clean off now. I don't have to change out the entire palette like I used to. So it's so much less wasteful, which I'm a huge fan of. So let's go ahead and you can wipe that off. Paper towel will wipe it off pretty good too once you've sprayed water on it, but it has just been such a nice setup. I've been using it for a few months now. I wasn't sure how much, I really didn't expect to like it like I do, but it's been really, 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 really handy. Really convenient, I think. That's the bigger thing for me is how convenient is it, and it definitely is. What is my opinion on stone paper? I have none because I've never used it. So we're going to go with none. I can make something up for you, but I would just be making it up. Let's see. Wicked Illusion Art said she made guac with avocado, onion, tomato, and lemon. Okay, so you had 2 more, double the ingredients. But did you use salt? That's the important thing to me. Everything for me is about salt. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm part horse or part cow, because if you gave me a salt lick, I would probably be the happiest person in the world. Let's see, Wicked Illusion Art. Use what you have. Will be good enough for a tortilla filling. I'm with you on that. I'll put butter in tortilla just because it's tasty. Anything, yeah. Most things in tortilla are pretty good. Okay, I guess we can wrap up tonight, and I will actually go eat. Oh, wait, here, we've got a question. Amanda says, when in a pinch, I've used sturdy, clear egg plates from the Dollar Tree, large enough for mixing, and cheap enough that I don't feel bad about pitching it. Yeah, those work. I've been on this kind of kick, like anything plastic, I've been like, I don't know, we use so much plastic, and it's not that I don't know, when you just become aware of something and you're like, wow, we use so much plastic in everything, and so now I'm always looking around going like, how can I not use as much of that thing? So yeah, I'm in this weird limbo of in what ways can I reduce the amount of disposable plastic that I'm using. So that was kind of the thing with a lot of the like paper plates, but paper plates weren't the thing, but the kind of like plasticky ones, the disposable plastic ones, those work really well for painting or for acrylics. You can reuse them, so that's actually a good thing too. But like, it's so easy to want to just throw them out and get a new one because they're cheap. But I'm like, it's so wasteful. So I've been a little bit weird about my whole plastic consumption. Like, looking around, just how much plastic we use we're not reusing. So yeah, Valerie said she uses reuse. I reuse glass wherever I can. Yeah, that's kind of my thing. I've been trying to do more, like, do my part of not being super wasteful, because I don't know if you guys do this, but I'll get to points where I'm just like, the amount of trash that one household produces, and then you're like, how much of that is plastic? How much of this is biodegradable? I don't know. I've been weird lately about that. I'm trying to just be aware of how much I'm using and where I can avoid it whenever possible. So I sound like tree hugger. I'm not going to lie, I have hugged trees before, so I guess that's not an inaccurate statement. But on that note, I'm going to go eat my rabbit food, because I don't have anything fun to put on the salad. Oh, I want avocado now. I think I have some pepperoncinis. I might do that. But I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys tonight and go make my super boring salad. Let's see. There we go. Always that weird, awkward pause in between that I complain about every time. You think I would just stop and hit pause and be used to being awkward at the end. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Again, make sure to head over and check out Valerie and Joseph's channels. Links are in the video description. They helped me for moderating tonight. I cannot do that without them. So, you know, go say thank you to them as well. Thank you. And thank you for joining. I don't know, next week I maybe continue. I don't know if I'm going to finish this week. I know Patreon's video this week is going to be me adding voiceover to one of the old ones that didn't have voiceover, because I don't think I'm getting this one done. I'm not sure if we'll be working on this next week or if it'll be another project. I have no idea right now. If it's not this, it may be watercolor pencils. I don't know. Anyway, I'll see you guys next week, and thank you for joining. That's it.